Hello. Hi, good afternoon. Everyone. Hi. So sorry, we're just turning down the music a little bit. Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us here a little bit early. Just a quick note to slowly start making your way back to your seats, and we will be starting the event shortly. Thank you. Good. A very good welcome to everyone here. Welcome to our distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to the Liveability Challenge 2025. We are just about to begin, so I'd like to invite everyone to take your seats, turn your phones to silent mode, and make yourselves comfortable. Could I please direct your attention to the QR code on the screen here today? So if I could get everyone to please take out their phones and scan this QR code to let us know how you came to our event so that we can take this into account for our carbon emissions accounting. I'll give you some time, very important stuff. I'll give you some time to scan that. You will also find a few QR codes at the back of your delegate badges, which will link you to the program for today, a feedback form that you can fill in after the event, and the last one is a link to our Eco-Business membership plans where you can learn more about the benefits of becoming an Eco-Business member, including unlimited access to our content, exclusive events, and training. Please also remember to return the lanyards that you're wearing at the boxes at the entrance before you leave here today so that we can reuse these lanyards at our future events. To our virtual audience, thank you for joining us. Please feel free to engage with us on the comment section of our live stream where you can find a link to the program as well. Our hashtag for today is hashtag TLC2025, so do please help to share the excitement from today's event with your networks. For now, please sit back, relax, and enjoy as we kick things off with the TLC opening video prepared specially for you.
Planet Earth is 4.5 billion years old. Modern humans appeared 300,000 years ago. Today, humans are a major force shaping the planet's future. Global temperatures are reaching dangerously new highs year after year. Rapid rise of greenhouse gas emissions pushes us closer to critical tipping points. Rising heat, extreme weather events, ecological deterioration. Achieving our climate targets has never been more urgent.
The fact that the people most affected by climate change are no longer some imagined future generation, but young people alive today, perhaps that will give us the impetus we need to rewrite our story, to turn this tragedy into a triumph. We are, after all, the greatest problem solvers to have ever existed on Earth.
Wow, yes indeed. What an inspiring video. Congratulations to everyone who put that together. Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to the grand finale of the Liveability Challenge 2025 here at the Park Royal Collection. It's been a while since I've been in this building, and it has changed very much for the better. It's lovely to have you all here. It's great also to have our virtual members at the back. I hope you can see us and hear us. Great to have you with us as well. Thanks for joining us. My name is Steve Dawson.
And I am Shireen Kashvani, Chief of Staff here at Ecobusiness, and we are delighted to be your co-hosts for today.
Really hope everybody enjoyed that wonderful video that we've just witnessed. It gives us something of a glimpse into the rich history of this challenge.
Yeah, exactly, Steve. And it's very heartening for us to see how much the Liveability Challenge, or TLC as we affectionately call it, has grown since its launch in 2018 with the leadership of Temasek Foundation.
So personally, it's the first time I've actually been here on the big day. In previous years, I've helped to coach the participants so that they can get their pitch across in a very effective way. That's always been a great pleasure. And having witnessed all of the presentations that you're going to see in the next hour or so, I can tell you there's a lot of exciting things in store. It's been a real privilege to listen to them, and I can't wait for you all to be impressed by these fabulous innovations.
And we're really happy to have you here with us in person today,
Thank
Steve.
you.
For those of you who are joining us for the first time, TLC is Asia's largest sustainability solutions platform presented by Temasek Foundation and organized by Ecobusiness. This is now our 8th edition of the challenge, and it's been a record-breaking year for us with over 1,200 entries from more than 100 countries across the globe.
Yeah, TLC launched in 2018, and it's incubated and supported some 53 startups, distributed more than $11 million in funding, and these startups have gone on to raise millions more dollars since then. So beyond the finalists that you'll hear from today, TLC has also played a key role in building an ecosystem of startups, yes, but also investors, corporates, and experts committed to accelerating the allocation of capital into sustainability.
And all this has been made possible thanks to Temasek Foundation's vision and leadership in accelerating sustainability solutions here in Singapore, in the region, and beyond. We also want to take a minute to thank Enterprise Singapore, Octave Wellbeing Economy Fund, Valuance Ventures, and TriRec for being our strategic partners and for contributing even more funding on the table for our finalists here today.
Yep, TLC has also been supported by more than 50 partners from around the globe, and we'd also like to thank them for helping us attract this many applications into our two chosen tracks, and those are decarbonisation and cool earth.
And with the help of our expert panel of shortlisting judges who met in person to further evaluate these teams, we've narrowed it down to 8 finalist teams here today from across Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, Israel, Belgium, and the United States.
Very exciting. These teams come with breakthrough solutions in the areas of hydrogen storage, zero waste design, and clean technology.
2 of the teams here today will stand a chance to win a $1 million grant. And in addition to that, our strategic partners will also be awarding investment prizes of $100,000, and Enterprise Singapore will be awarding a grant of $100,000 as well.
All right, well, before we invite the teams to deliver their pitches, we're delighted to introduce our strategic partners and judges for the grand finale this year. And we have with us today Emily Liu, Assistant Managing Director, Innovation, Enterprise Singapore.
Next, we have Axel Tan, Venture Partner of Octave Wellbeing Economy Fund.
A familiar face, Hung Li Lang, Head of Climate and Liveability, Temasek Foundation.
Next, we have Andrew Wong, Director at TriRec.
Last but certainly not least, as the saying goes, Andrew Hyung, General Partner, Valuance Ventures.
Thank you, judges, for joining us here today and for lending us your expertise.
And now, we would like to introduce the teams who have traveled from right across the world to be with us this afternoon. And as we put the spotlight on them, let us introduce them to you. So can we invite all of the finalist teams to stand up as they hear their names? Our teams today are SXD Inc, Crosslinker Private Limited, Decarbon, Aritin Energy Inc, Catamon, Estia Corp, CO2 Tech, and Ctogenics. And so we're approaching one of many moments that we'll be waiting for today. I'll hand this over to Shirin to kickstart the live pitch segment.
Thank you, Steve. So I am very excited to get things going. In the past years of TLC, we've actually gotten the finalists to submit a recording of their pitches. But today, you're in for a treat. They will be presenting their pitches live to you. So everyone in the audience also gets to join in on the fun today. I hope you've all watched a lot of Shark Tank and you know how to put on your investor hats, because we'll be launching an audience poll later for both our in-person and virtual audience. So this will be your chance to vote for your favorite team or the team that you think is going to be the winner for today. So do keep a lookout for today. Do keep a lookout for that. The teams pitching today have created disruptive innovations to address pressing issues that we face today in the themes of decarbonization and cool earth. We will be hearing from a total of 8 finalist teams today, and each team will have 7 minutes for their pitch, followed by a live 5-minute Q&A segment with our judges. For the consideration of our finalists, we please ask that there is no flash photography during their presentations. Okay, finalists, just a reminder, you have 7 minutes for your presentation. At the 3.5-minute mark, you will hear this sound. Thank you. And at the 1-minute mark, you'll hear this sound. Just remember those sounds. After your 7 minutes is up, your microphone will be faded out, so it's very important to keep an eye on the time. For the first team of today, please welcome SXD Inc. Representing them in their pitch is their founder, Shelley Xu. SXD uses its patent-published AI to design and scale zero-waste material designs. Shelley, just a reminder that we'll get the timer started, and you can begin your pitch 5 seconds after the countdown. Shelley, the stage is yours.
Imagine that every piece of clothing that you're wearing right now only used half the raw material and wasted nothing by design. I am Shelley, founder of SXD, and that is what we do. We have created a zero-waste design technology, and we're proposing a project that would enable 3 million tons of decarbonization every year through zero-waste design scaled by SXD AI. And we have already received commitment from Uniqlo Singapore to bring this project to life with us and TLC. And what I am proposing is not just a vision. We have already created viability in our design, and with our innovation actually showcased on global pop stars on sold-out stages and worn by people from award-winning museum exhibits. So why is zero-waste design impactful? We come here from all around the world, and the one thing that we all have in common is that we're all wearing clothes. But the textile that covers us is one of the biggest polluters on our planet. It emits more emissions than all flights and maritime shipping combined, and it contributes to up to 94% of our clothing's lifetime emissions and 20% of our planet's wastewater. Yet Singapore alone wastes over 200,000 tons of this textile. And the root problem is bad design. We have been making our clothes the same way for centuries. Right here, this is a typical t-shirt, and all the waste is in red. And the best that technologies can do today is just to save about 4% of this textile. With SXD, we have created a breakthrough technology that enables zero-waste designs. No red, no waste. And we save up to 69% of this textile. So you can see here that this rectangle is slimmer because we are actually creating t-shirts that uses half the fabric. And we have created the first in the world AI platform that can scale this zero-waste design in real time. So across fabrics, sizes, specifications, and similar styles, you can now create zero-waste designs in real time in a matter of seconds rather than weeks or months like traditional design processes. And we actually have a custom design algorithm behind our SXD AI. We have a patent published in the US and EU with 11 claims deemed completely novel, never been done before. And our AI trains on 15 years worth of zero-waste design data that we have created and we own ourselves. And this data is actually the largest collection, the highest quality zero-waste design data set in the world. And because it's high quality, we also see unprecedented efficiency. SXD AI's emissions is 1/7 that of a t-shirt's emission every year. We're competitive because we are the first in market software that allows for zero waste, maximum savings in real time from sampling to mass production across products. And we actually drive SDG goals with climate action, with about 80% smaller carbon footprint, with responsible consumption and production, with over 10x the material savings compared to any other technology. And we allow for decent work and economic growth with up to 55% lower cost, because textile turns to be the biggest cost that goes into making our clothes. We have already proven our impact, feasibility, and viability across 20 different paid projects with some of the popular brands that you know here in Singapore, like Hugo Boss, H&M, and one of the largest Asian apparel brands. Just this year, we're projected to save about 4,000 tons in CO2 reduction. We're projected to preserve about 4 billion liters of water and also save billions in textile savings. This is actually just one of our happy customers, the CEO of Accenture, talking about SXD on Earth Day, about our inspiring vision on a global scale. And we're so excited to bring our work to Singapore with the world's first zero-waste fashion pilot for the mass market, starting Singapore and scaling worldwide. And Singapore is the perfect gateway for this because of its global leadership in innovation, because of its zero-waste mission that is aligned with ours through its green plan, and its diverse population that serves as a perfect testing ground for us to make sure that zero-waste designs are good before scaling to the ecosystem of Southeast Asia, one of the biggest exporters of textile and apparel. We will start with 5 Uniqlo styles that will be created into zero-waste design building blocks in our AI platform. And then we can scale it to actually cover the vast majority of Uniqlo's product line using our AI platform. At scale, this is almost $1 billion in textile savings with Uniqlo, over 800 billion liters of water preserved every year, and 3 million tons in decarbonization impact, which is about 20x the decarbonization impact of all mature trees here in Singapore. We have a proven business model where we start with a fixed fee per building block and then scaling into SaaS monthly fee that is based on the volume of units converted to zero waste across the building blocks. And because we're software that has already proven viability and feasibility, we can actually be integrated right away to drive zero waste designs and have quantifiable impact in just 6 months. And with your investment and also our co-investment at Uniqlo Singapore's support and resources, we can bring this from development to SaaS and scale around the globe. We have an incredible team that combines the best of design technology. I am an ex-creative director from Instagram with over 15 years of experience creating zero-waste designs. I'm joined by design legends from Prada, Coach, Lacoste, Levi's, Adidas, and we have 3 PhD computer science engineers on the team who are personally recommended to me by the Dean of Engineering at Harvard University. So with your help and support, we can fill a gap in the $5 trillion fashion circular economy market and actually scale beyond fashion. We just closed our first agreement in the auto space with a multi-billion, over $100 billion automaker, and also we're expanding to upholstery as well. So let's drive zero waste, 10x the impact, and see infinite possibilities together. Thank you so much.
Shelley, thank you very much. I can't wait to get kitted out, I must say. Thank you. For you and for the benefit of the other speakers today, not only do you come up to present, but we're going to subject you to a couple of questions each. There's 5 minutes to get through these questions, so keep your answers reasonably brief within the 5 minutes that we've got, if you will. We've got a couple of questions for you, and the first one will come from Emily. Emily, what's your question, please, for SXD Inc?
Hi. Hi, thank you very much, Shelley, for the great presentation. My first question is on scalability. I mean, it's very exciting to hear about your pilot with Uniqlo Singapore, and it's very exciting for us that actually you're doing it here. But you know, Uniqlo is a mass market kind of clothing retailer. You mentioned a few other names in your presentation. Is it also scalable to other subsegments of clothing retail? For example, luxury. Actually, that's where a lot of the waste is as well.
Absolutely. So actually, we have customers in the luxury space as well. And the way we work is during onboarding, we make sure that the zero waste designs are really high quality and our AI is outputting the right designs. And from there, we can then scale across materials, across sizes, etc. So actually, we do have experience also scaling with actually tailored suits and much more luxury products as well.
Yeah. So I think what I'm getting at is actually there's a mass market nature of Uniqlo products, which is a lot of t-shirts, jackets, you know, everyday fashion. But when you get into more segmentized customer groups, then the designs become a lot more unique, a lot more customized. Does your AI platform also allow for that kind of specificity?
Yes, it does. So basically the way it works is that if it's like Uniqlo, like a design that's very common, iconic, we actually have already enough training data to be able to have immediate impact, which is the case here. If it's something that's very bespoke, for example, we may have to create another training data to kind of guide our algorithm to output the right designs. For your context though, we just need like 1 or 2 training data for our algorithm. What we're seeing is just with one additional training data, we actually see about 40,000 exports from our AI platform that are high quality, that works for the brand.
Okay, great. Thanks. That's very, very useful. The second question I have is about, getting into the manufacturing, the kind of processes. So you start at the design phase, but does your team also look at how this is translated in the factories and whether they really get the impact that you want when it comes down to the factory floor, and how do you do that?
Yeah, so there are 2 things that we do. First is that we work very closely with manufacturers, and we actually make sure that our zero waste designs can work with their fabric width, work with their fabric characteristics, work with any shrinkage or seam allowance that they may need, so that it actually can be integrated. Second thing is from a software side, we actually export in a universal file format, DXF, which is basically used by all the different factories, no matter what their workflow is. So that way we can make sure it's a seamless integration with our technology.
Oh, great, thank you. Thanks, Shelley.
Emily, thank you for those questions. Andrew Hyung, I think you have some questions as well.
Thank you, Shelley. Really appreciate it. Would love to hear about, so my assumption is that the industry will constantly adopt material optimization. And how do you ensure longevity of your technology?
Yeah, so if I understand correctly, it's about how we can continue to save material, or how are you thinking about
the design, design optimization. I'm assuming if Uniqlo has a design optimization for a particular shirt, to consistently use that design, right? So how do you ensure that you guys are staying?
Andrew, just bring the mic up a little to you, closer to your mouth for us.
How do you ensure longevity, meaning that Uniqlo constantly adopts your design optimization?
That's a great question. So actually fashion is a great industry for this, because people like Uniqlo, they actually have hundreds of suppliers, and all of them may have different fabric width, they have different materials, and also across different sizes. And every season, even for someone like Uniqlo, even though the silhouettes are quite classic, but there's still new materials being introduced and new different styles. And every single time, if you want to make it zero waste manually, it actually takes weeks or months. So we make sure that you can use our platform to do it in just seconds in real time.
So just taking a couple of steps back, is it both design optimization and material optimization?
Absolutely,
okay,
yeah.
understood.
So what we do is ensure zero material waste, and also we make sure that the design works for our customers, because no matter how great and sustainable your products are, unless people love the design, it's just more waste.
Great, thank you. Touching up on
20 seconds only, Andrew, so it needs to be
so on manufacturing part, how do you ensure that you get both buy-in from manufacturers and brands? So brands, of course, constantly wants, they want to reduce cost, but for manufacturers, it has to work with the existing specs.
I'll give you 10 seconds.
Yeah. So on the brand side, we help them reduce costs. We also help them meet their ESG targets. On the manufacturing side, we also help them reduce costs because they don't have to buy as much fabric, especially if they're vertically integrated. They don't have to make as much material. And in addition to that, we've actually done work where the manufacturers were able to actually pay their workers 2 to 4 times higher wage and maintain same margin because they save so much on textiles by working with us with zero waste design. So we really see this as a win-win situation with our technology.
Right. Time is up for the questions. Judges, thank you for your questions. Thank you for answering so very well. Appreciate it. We move on to our next team, and ladies and gentlemen, that is Crosslinker Private Limited. Representing them today is their co-founder and CEO, Gayatri Natarajan.
Pronounced it correctly. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Gayatri. So what is the first thing that you felt when you stepped out for lunch at 1 p.m. today? burning heat radiating at you. Okay, welcome to TLC, welcome to Singapore, welcome to the tropics. Okay, and the room here is very comfortable, cool at like 20 is the set point. Yeah, we were discussing the set point in the morning. Okay, you know what do we pay for this? In Singapore, we spend $1.5 billion a year just to stay cool, and we use up 1/3 of the entire nation's electricity to stay cool. And globally, the energy consumption for cooling is expected to triple by 2050. Okay? Now let me introduce Crosslinker. We develop advanced material in a way that enables energy-free cooling that makes it simple, scalable, and sustainable, reducing the cooling load even before you turn on the aircon. Why? Because for 1 billion people around the globe, cooling is not about luxury or comfort. It's survival. So let's talk about what an ideal cooling solution should look like. Let's talk science for a moment. We are solving very much for a physical heat transfer problem. 1, it should reflect any sunlight. 2, block any heat. 3, emit any of the trapped heat. Okay? And all this 24/7 and without any aircon or cooling or water. Okay? This is what we call as passive cooling. Looks simple, except that it has never really worked. Many have tried to solve this cooling problem through foam coating, reflective paints, rock wool, etc., etc. But these fail to scale for mass adoption. Crosslinker addresses this challenge, this failure, through advanced material aerogel. Meet aerogel, a fantastic class of nanomaterial, the best insulating material ever known to mankind. Its structure and chemistry beautifully blocks heat and emits heat, a very, very powerful combination for passive radiative cooling. But the catch is, manufacturing aerogels has been a very energy-intensive and expensive endeavor. So, we put in deep, hard research to create our production platform patented, Aspire. What Aspire does is it manufactures aerogels faster, cheaper, and greener in multiple forms: boards, panels, shippers. For infrastructure cooling, we specifically start with our aerogel paints because it opens up an impactful opportunity to scale up very fast for mass adoption. Okay? So this is Cross Shield, our aerogel-powered paint built into a pail that delivers performance that is remarkably close to theoretical values in a very, very single thin passive layer. Okay, the best part is it works very much like a normal paint fitting into existing application workflows. No special equipment, no complicated machinery, and works pretty much across all surfaces: metals, roofs, concretes. So what you see here is not a science experiment. It's not a simulation. Not only our paint works under normal conditions, we tested it under extreme conditions. In Abu Dhabi, we partnered with a leading insulation company to paint in 2 extreme conditions, desert conditions, precisely. The green line that you see there is the original container. We took 2 containers, and it peaked at 75 degrees Celsius. The red line that you see there is with our paint, the same paint. That is a massive 30 degrees Celsius reduction. Okay? To put things in perspective, like, you know what 30 degrees Celsius reduction would mean? This is essentially the difference between being fried and being able to survive. That's 20% energy savings in just that one container. This would translate into 100 tons of carbon saved in a single asset class in a single city. Okay? Now imagine the impact across multiple infrastructure in major urban cities. Megatons of carbon saved. This is what we call as passive scalable infrastructure cooling for mass adoption. Now we are bringing this home to Singapore through the TLC pilot. We will be coating 200 meters square of Singapore's heat-stressed infrastructure, monitor the performance for 6 months through rain and shine, achieve 10% energy savings in cooling and 10 degrees reduction in surface temperature. Make sure it works through day and night, through rain and shine. So our TLC pilot follows a clear 5-phase roadmap all the way from facility setup to commercial readiness. We are already in active discussion with all the major players, including ST Engineering, Travers, Buildo, to host the pilots right here in Singapore. The 1 million from TLC is not just to fund a pilot trial, but it is a catalyst for bringing next generation cooling solutions with Singapore as a global reference. So we create and engineer solutions that work, scale, and pay off. We have validated our technology under planet's extreme conditions. We own the technology and we control the manufacturing ourselves. And we have protected it with global intellectual property. We have made it commercially viable too, okay, with energy savings more than offsetting any investment. And it blends seamlessly into existing application workflows, and we tap into a $10 billion cool coating market. And this is how we make passive scalable cooling a reality. Behind this reality is the team that makes it possible. We are a deep tech team, deep-rooted in material science, aerogel R&D, and commercialization. We are fortunate to be backed by some of the world's best strategic investors, advisors, and commercial partners who believe in our mission and make this possible. I would humbly request you to be a part of this journey, not just to paint infrastructure, okay, but to save megatons of carbon, and most importantly, back a solution that does not come with a trade-off between cost, carbon, and access. Because for billion people, cooling is survival, not comfort. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gayatri. We will now be going into our 5-minute Q&A with the judges.
Yeah, I would like to invite my co-founder also.
Sure, we'll give your co-founder a bit of time to join us up on stage.
So for those of you who do not know, Dr. Mahesh is a subject matter expert in aerogels, spent over the last 20 years in manufacturing aerogels and commercializing it.
Thank you. Great. Could we get 5 minutes on the clock? And Lilang, I think you have the first question.
Thank you very much for the impressive presentation. Given that cross-shield will be priced about 20 to 50% more than conventional paints, how do you plan to penetrate the market? And what other approaches are you exploring to reduce costs over time?
Okay, sure. Let me answer the first part. The way we go to the market is through large industrial players like the likes of Aramco, ST Engineering, who will be the early adopters of our solution, and also the building developers. And second, on the cost for the premium, yes, there is an additional investment, which is a 20 to 25% premium, but the energy savings will offset and make the payback less than 3 years, whereas it's more than 7 years for a traditional white paint that you already apply.
Just to add, as we speak, we are making some inroads in improving the cost optimization on our paint. One of the ways that we are trying to do is to have the same effect with a lower thin dry film thickness on the paint. So that would give us more coverage per meter square. So that will help us to reduce the cost as well.
Thank you. And my second question is, how is your trial in Singapore differs from the one that you did in Abu Dhabi?
So in Abu Dhabi, when I was there, unfortunately, I wasn't one of those who were wearing those suits. I was down. So we were monitoring a very, very extreme temperature conditions. In Singapore, the conditions is not as bad, but still we would expect to see a great reduction in temperature, at least in the 10 to 15 degrees scale. So this is what we have estimated based on our calculations from our energy equations.
So the range of pilot trial partners that we are discussing, because our paint happens to be a very versatile solution, ranges all the way from data centers to building developers to large industrial applications like oil and gas pipelines, fire retardant coatings, marine industry, everything. So we touch upon a range of applications. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And now, Emily, could I get you to? Thank you.
So about the about the technology. Okay, about the applications, you mentioned infrastructures, right? Can you give specific examples? So you mentioned data centers,
Yeah, sure.
buildings, but I think each one is quite different, right? I mean, the 30-degree, excuse me, mitigation that you manage is very different. It doesn't make a blip for data centers, for example, I think,
sure.
versus say buildings where people are operating in offices. I mean, is there a focus area that you are looking at?
Okay.
And are you going along that track?
No. So one of the major areas that we would be looking at, irrespective of the application, is places that are directly exposed to sun. For example, if you take a commercial building, what we will be targeting is the rooftop. Okay. Same with the HDB building. With the data centers also, it's the same because they want to reduce the external heat load as much as possible.
I see. Okay. So there are specific surfaces in the buildings.
We will target surfaces that will offer the highest impact, directly positioned right with the sun.
Okay, great. Okay, the second question is around the technology. How good is it? With the 1 million grant, if you do get it, actually, what are you working on? Are there certain barriers or certain things that you're working on to get the technology even more effective, even better?
Yes. So as Dr. Mahesh mentioned, on the technical side, we are working to improve the coverage as much as possible by making the coating as thin. So as of now, we stand at 300 microns. So when we go into the applications in Singapore, we would target between 200 to 250 microns so that the price is very attractive for even mass adoption and even at this very, very early stage. Sorry.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
There's still another 40 seconds. Emily, if you have any further questions. If not, I think we can end our Q&A segment. Thank you, judges, for your questions. Thank you, Dr. Mahesh and Gayatri as well. And next up, we have Decarbon. Representing them today is their CEO, Jill Shelchens. Decarbon has created a plasma-based technology for carbon dioxide recycling. Can we get 7 minutes on the clock? And Jill, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is truly an honor to speak to you here today. In the upcoming 7 minutes, I will invite you to a new perspective on tackling climate change and how to make that profitable. A new perspective where we will flip the script on how we make things and where every ton of carbon saved becomes a financial gain. My name is Jill Shelchens. I'm a chemical engineer, CEO and co-founder of Decarbon. And our story begins with carbon. Carbon is the essential building block of life. We humans are made of carbon. Our lovely trees are made of carbon. Even the oil that we are extracting from Earth is based on carbon. As a matter of fact, the reason why we are extracting crude oil from our Earth is because of the fact that we need these carbon atoms available to build the products that we are using on a daily basis. But here's the challenge. Whenever we harvest carbon from fossil fuels, we burn it, we use it to produce electricity, we treat it to build products, a lot of it turns into carbon dioxide, CO2. And this CO2 molecule is a stubborn molecule. It's chemically inert, it cannot be used, it cannot be repurposed, and so we treat it as waste. The result? Every year, humanity is releasing up to 45 gigatons of CO2 into our atmosphere. Now, to visualize that, we are emitting a giant rock of carbon, the size of Singapore's national stadium, per second. By the end of this 7-minute pitch, we will have been emitting 420 of these giant chunks of charcoal into our atmosphere. And that's not just pollution anymore. That's a missed opportunity. At this moment, governments and industries are working very hard to reduce these emissions. In Europe, the main focus has been put on carbon capture and storage, CCS. But in the end, this CCS route is still treating CO2 as waste, burying it deep underground and hoping it stays there. For the rest of this value chain, this is very complex. It is also very linear, and there is no added value. But what if we see it differently? With our company Decarbon, we don't see CO2 as waste. We consider it as new feedstock. With our proprietary plasma technology, we are splitting the CO2 molecule, making this dead molecule active again. We produce carbon monoxide, which is a chemical building block, which is now being used in chemical, petrochemical, and steel-making industry. Some people call this carbon capture and utilization, but we call it carbon as a service because we enable on-site CO2 recycling, local, modular, and plug-and-play. We are closing the carbon loop, creating a true circular carbon economy. And that's not just theory. We have been implementing our solution on-site at ArcelorMittal, world's second largest steel-making company. And the results were even better than we expected. We have been proving in the field that we are up to 5 times more energy efficient compared to the second-in-class CO production technology, namely the reverse water gas shift. Now, let's put this gain in efficiency into economic numbers. At this moment, fossil CO is being traded in the market at around $350. With our technology, we are offering a much more sustainable alternative at the same price. The bonus is a profitable business case with an IRR more than 20% and a return of investment of less than 3 years. Now, imagine scaling this technology across Southeast Asia. The potential CO2 savings are staggering. We can reduce more than 300 million tons of CO2 by implementing this technology. But to start this movement, we have negotiated a pilot trial with a large multinational chemical company right here in Singapore. So yes, our ambitions are bold. What if CO2 isn't the problem, but the solution? What if CO2 is the oil of the 21st century? Today, we are seeking an additional 5 million euros to close our Series A investment round. With these funds, we will create our very first commercial unit that will be able to convert up to 10,000 tons of CO2 per year. We are looking for strategic partners, visionaries, builders. And if you believe, as we do, that planet and profit can go hand in hand, then please join us and let's build a new industrial revolution together. My name is Gilles Scheltjens, and I would like to thank you all for your kind attention. Thank you.
Gilles, congratulations, a very compelling presentation, and you were at least half a minute inside your allocated 7, so well done. We have questions for you. Let's go to Axel, first of all, who has the first question for Decarbon.
Thank you, Gil, for the presentation. Really interesting to see you using plasma to split CO2. My question is around the business model. So, you are helping emitters to convert CO2 into valuable product. How do you ensure that there's, sustainability and presence of off-takers to buy these valuable CO2 byproducts?
That's so. In short, the business model that we are targeting is to offer CO indeed as a service. But we are still in a startup phase, and I will be very honest, it might be also possible that we will offer our technology through licensing, working together with larger companies that have the implementation power to work with to build within large corporations like BASF, ArcelorMittal, to reduce our go-to-market strategy. That's a little bit where we are heading to with Decarbon.
I see. So are these locations where you can produce and sell on site?
That's correct. Our top-tier customers are both CO2 emitters as CO users at the same time. And you can find these customers in chemical, petrochemical, and steelmaking industry.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Axel. Andrew Wong is with us. You have some questions, I believe.
Yeah, thanks for that. Just a question, I guess, on the tech side of things, because you're using the plasma method of capturing carbon. So, I mean, maybe just expand a bit on the challenges with that. I mean, I've read things such as inverse relationship between conversion and energy efficiency. So, just wondering, like, how do you guys tackle that with your method specifically?
Yes, just to clarify, with our technology, we don't have to work with pure CO2. We can work with diluted CO2 streams. We can allow up to 50% CO2 in our feed. But if you look at flue gas emissions, you will find 10 to 20% CO2 in there. So we do have to collaborate with a party that is doing the capturing side. We are doing the conversion side. So, for example, at ArcelorMittal, we have been collaborating with Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. They were responsible for the capturing and the purification, and we are taking from them the CO2-rich stream, and we convert that to CO. If that answers your question a little bit. So, yeah. The challenge that we are facing on the technology side, of course, is the scale-up. As we are a hardware company, that means that we do need to invest also in this scale-up. We have been following the customer-funded approach in the first 4 years. And I think for us, the maximum scale that we achieved is piloting without any external investors. And if I keep following this approach, I might reach a commercial unit in 10 years from now, but that's too long. I will be overrun by competitors, and I want to keep this head start. And that's why we are organizing this Series A investment round.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
Beautifully concise questions and answers. We have 1 minute and 40 seconds left. If anybody else, please,
yeah,
yes.
Hi, thanks very much. Very interesting. What is the size of your commercial unit? And what is the footprint, and how would you see it being deployed in which industries besides oil and gas? Yeah.
A very good question. Actually, one of our unique selling points is that we only need a very small amount of space to convert a lot of CO2. The reason for that is because of the fact that plasma is the most energy-dense medium that exists. And our pilot line was a 10-foot container, converting up to maximum 1,000 tons of CO2 per year. And our first commercial unit that we will build will be a 40-foot container that will be able to convert 10,000 tons of CO2.
Currently, this is all built in Antwerp, is it? Sorry?
Actually, we don't have any manufacturing capacity ourselves.
Yeah.
We are working with international manufacturers, and that's also not our ambition to build in manufacturing capacity. Actually, the beauty of our instrument is that any steel-making company or steel shaper can produce our technology. We are not using any water or catalysts or expensive materials like rare earth materials, which makes our technology unique and scalable. And that's where we are looking at.
That's the end of our 7 minutes, I'm afraid.
Okay,
Judges, thank you for your questions. Really appreciate it. Gilles, thank you. And we move on to our next presenter, and that's Aritin Energy Inc. Representing them today is the co-founder and CTO, Brandy Kincaid. Please come up to the stage. Their team has created a proprietary technology for hydrogen storage, and Brandy is here to tell us all about it after the 5-second chime.
Thank you for having me here today. I'm Brandy Kincaid, and I'm the CTO and co-founder for Aritin Energy. Hydrogen is globally recognized as a necessary fuel for zero emissions in order for us to meet sustainability challenges. It's commonly thought that it's low-cost hydrogen production that's going to unlock the hydrogen economy, but it's storage and transportation that accounts for up to 70% of total hydrogen costs and is the true bottleneck to broad hydrogen adoption. Hydrogen is typically stored at very high pressures or very low temperatures. This requires specialized equipment and dictates complex logistics, overall resulting in really high costs and not addressing safety concerns related to hydrogen. Aritin has developed an electrically enabled liquid organic hydrogen carrier technology, or eLOHC, that allows hydrogen to be stored and managed just like diesel, as a room temperature and pressure liquid that utilizes existing liquid fuel infrastructures and allows for simplified logistics at a lower cost than conventional hydrogen storage. Our technology consists of 3 proprietary components. At the site of hydrogen production, hydrogen is chemically bound to our carrier oil using the H cell, an electrochemical hydrogenation reactor. Once stored in that carrier oil, it's managed just like diesel using existing liquid fuel infrastructures, such as tanks, trucks, rail cars, and pipelines. At the site of hydrogen use, hydrogen is released from our carrier oil on demand using the D cell, an electrochemical hydrogen release system. The carrier oil is then recycled over and over again. Our system truly makes hydrogen logistics easy. Traditional LOHCs are using thermochemical processes at high temperatures and high pressures. We've revolutionized LOHCs by allowing for electrochemical processing. This allows us to operate at lower temperatures and lower pressures, and we release high hydrogen purity directly from our process, not requiring additional purification. For traditional LOHCs, they're only achieving good efficiency at large chemical plant-sized operations. Our electrochemical system scales efficiently for operations ranging from 1 kilogram per day to multi-tons per day of hydrogen storage and release. We are moving quickly towards commercialization. In 2023, we raised pre-seed funds that allowed us to tackle the hardest part of our technology, demonstrating low energy demand release of the hydrogen from our carrier oil. We then scaled that 300x and deployed that pilot unit with a Canadian gas utility partner. Building on that momentum, we raised seed funding that is allowing us to expand our IP portfolio and scale our technology to initial MVP sizes of 30 kilograms per day of hydrogen storage and release. We'll be deploying those units later this year with a target market customer. After those deployments, we'll be scaling our tech to commercial sizes of 1 to 3 tons per day for deployment in 2027. Aritin is competing against other LOHCs, compressed gas, liquefied gas, and ammonia. For cost and operational simplicity, our ability to utilize existing infrastructure as well as to operate at high efficiencies and to effectively address safety concerns sets us apart from the competition. For ease of adoption and scalability, our modular scalable units allow for incremental deployment and early cost optimizations. Our LOHC is also a proprietary blend of commodity chemicals. This, alongside our ability to leverage existing electrochemical supply chains, means that we don't have a barrier for large adoption. Aritin's technology is a truly enabling solution for long distance and long duration hydrogen storage. This allows us to effectively decouple hydrogen production from hydrogen end use so that producers can focus on the lowest cost of hydrogen production and we can get it to site. Our target markets include commercial refueling, a vastly growing market, such as at ports and warehouses for hydrogen forklifts and tractors. We're also looking at industrial gas use markets where hydrogen is used as a feedstock for processes such as sustainable aviation fuels, e-fuels, and semiconductor industry manufacturing. We've extensively studied the economics of our solution. For road transport, Aritin has a clear advantage over compressed and liquefied competitors, particularly at distances greater than 250 kilometers. For seaborne transport, we're a clear winner against alternatives including ammonia. These cost savings are driven by our ability to support multi-scale projects and use existing multimodal infrastructure to efficiently move around our solutions. As a global energy trade hub, Singapore is positioned to be a world leader in hydrogen trade and innovation. Aritin's technology allows Singapore to fast-track their sustainability goals by allowing them to reuse existing hub infrastructures and by allowing them to cost-effectively import hydrogen from places that can achieve low-cost production. Liveability challenge funding and support will allow Aritin to accelerate the demonstration of our technology as a clear solution for long-distance transport and accelerate our commercialization and manufacturing plans in Asia. We have a highly skilled team at Aritin. I'm a PhD chemist with over 20 years of experience in chemistry, materials, and energy technology development. And my co-founder and CEO, Tasha, has over 20 years of experience in the energy service industry and in business development. We're supported by fantastic investors from our seed round, and we'll be going out for our Series A round in mid-2026. Aritin Energy is the catalytic solution that unlocks the hydrogen economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandy. Okay, we'll now move on to our Q&A segment with the judges. I'll pass the time over to Andrew Wong.
Thanks, Brandy. Just a question on the carrier fluids. You mentioned, you can keep on using it over and over. So, just wondering in terms of longevity, how many cycles, and then in terms of, if there is a decay in terms of the density of hydrogen that can be put in there over time, like what happens with that?
That's a great question. And so for our system, because we're using these low temperature, low pressure reactions and we're able to very selectively drive our system, we can achieve thousands of cycles based on the selectivity of our reactions. And when we're talking about what is end of life, it'll depend a little bit on industry as to what the minimum amount of hydrogen they are allowed or comfortable with storing, but we're generally saying around 80% is where we're going to cap that and do a reprocessing and putting it back in the market. And so it's not thrown away at that point, it is recycled and reused again.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, very concise question and answer. Leelang, could I invite you to pose the second question?
So what is the levelized cost of hydrogen associated with your solution? And what is the price point that this needs to be to achieve scale across your various applications?
Another great question. And so in general, what we're finding is that existing solutions are above $4 per kilogram of hydrogen in order for transport and storage of hydrogen. And so we believe that we'll be able to get to less than $2 per kilogram of hydrogen with our technology, and we'll be a strong competitor anywhere below $5 per kilogram of hydrogen.
And my next question is, how does the H cell and your D cell reactors ensure high purity hydrogen release? And what are the implications for fuel cell applications?
Absolutely. And so for our technology, because we're able to separate the hydrogen from the reactions, we're driving these reactions with very high selectivity. That's how we're producing high quality hydrogen directly from our process. And as implication for fuel cells, there's two things with that. We can directly take our hydrogen and put that through a fuel cell, which we demonstrated in our first pilot unit that's currently deployed. And we can also utilize low-grade waste heat that is coming from a fuel cell to augment our energy demands. Because we're operating at less than 100 degrees Celsius, that low-grade waste heat put out by fuel cells is sufficient to cover our entire heat loads.
Thank you, Brandy. We still have 2 minutes on the clock if any of the other judges have any questions for Brandy.
If not, I ask the third question. How would you visualize your pilot in Singapore will look like if you win this competition?
We've been talking with a couple really exciting partners. So one of them is a locally grown company, Sun Green H2, and they're currently driving low-cost hydrogen production with our electrolysis technology. So we imagine doing a project where we're working with Sun Green, taking the hydrogen that they're producing, storing it in our fluid, and being able to ship it into Singapore for end-use applications. And for shipment, we're looking at working with EPS, who is an investor from our seed round. For end-use applications, we've been having some high-level discussions with construction companies in the region that are looking to use it for hydrogen generators, and we're still open to finding other off-takers that are interested in this technology. So please come find me if you're looking for this sort of a solution afterwards.
A little sales pitch there. Any further questions from the judges? Emily, thank you.
Maybe one last one. It's super compelling proposition that you have, and indeed this is the main challenge in hydrogen transportation today. How are you sort of scaling it across different geographies? Are you talking to different customers in different areas? And what technology barriers do you see as you scale up?
So for different geographies, I would say that right now most of the conversations that we're having are within North America. We're a Canadian technology, it's in our backyard, so that's where we've started. We've been building out our presence in Asia significantly, particularly with Antares and EPS investing in our last round and providing us a base for starting all of those conversations. And we see Singapore as an immensely important market for us with their position as a global trade hub. And I see that I'm at the end of my time.
You want to finish your last sentence?
In regards to scaling, one thing that's beautiful about electrochemical technology is it scales linearly. So we're de-risking the main factors within our engineering with this 30 kilogram per day pilot, and then we'll be scaling that linear to our ton per day operations.
Okay, thank you, Brandy, and thank you, judges, for your questions. We'll now be moving on. Thank you. Another round of applause. We'll now be moving on to our next team, Catamon. Representing them in their pitch today is their founder and CEO, Dr. Gilad Lando. Their team has produced a potent catalyst for producing hydrogen from ammonia. Dr. Gilad, if I could invite you up on stage with us. Your time will begin 5 seconds after the countdown, and yeah, the time is yours.
Hello everybody, so happy to be here and excited to demonstrate our new tool for fighting the climate change. And this tool is actually a very common tool, ceramics. Now I need to apologize to Brandy because we don't agree on the ammonia thing, and let me show. So everybody understands hydrogen, and Brandy did a great job in showing that hydrogen is either a net zero fuel, very interesting fuel, but problematic in, for example, shipping. However, from our aspect, ammonia is the best solution. And the reason for that is because, as you can see, the ammonia structure is mainly hydrogen. While if you put the hydrogen inside a liquid carrier, you will be able to carry about 1% of the weight. So it's a lot of weight. And here you have about 70% weight hydrogen. So it is a much more efficient way of bringing hydrogen. Really sorry about that. Now, hydrogen is a terrible PR, I must say. I'm a chemist, a PhD in chemistry, and it has a terrible PR, and I don't think it's right because it is the second most used chemical in the world. Right now, there is 20,000 tons of ammonia in the sea. So ammonia is quite, sorry, I said hydrogen, ammonia, I meant ammonia, is very well used and very knowledgeable about how to use it all over the world. Also, it is very clean. It is very clean. It is only composed from hydrogen and nitrogen. And it is much safer than petroleum. Now, the problem with ammonia, as Brandy said, is that you need extremely high energy to release back the hydrogen from the ammonia. And actually, there are two ways to do it. one is called the cold way, which is not that cold. It's 500 to 600 Celsius. And it requires very specific catalysts. And these catalysts are based on very rare metals, like BASF, for example, uses ruthenium. And Johnson Matthey are using platinum. But this is not the main problem. I mean, still, this is the most cost-effective way to do it. The problem is because of this rarity, you can only make it at a very small scale. But if you want to make it at high scale, and we all agree that we want to make it at high scale, then you need to do it at the hot way, which is 700 to 800 Celsius, very hot, very energy, non-efficient, and not very green. But what if we could combine both? We could combine an energy efficiency and high scale with ammonia. And this is what we want to do and are doing in Catamon. Catamon is based on 5 years of research in a university in which we created a totally new catalyst. This catalyst is 99% based on ceramics. The ceramics very similar to this one. It is totally free from rare metals, no ruthenium there. It is highly scalable. We can do it at almost any scale, and it is ours. Now, even today, the market size for ammonia as hydrogen carrier is huge. It is $150 billion by 2032. And what is still left is to bring the right catalyst. And the catalyst market is growing very, very fast, 84% growth every year. And I think many companies understand the uses for ammonia to hydrogen to energy. But for us, the most interesting one is the ammonia-powered power plants, because they are the biggest ones and they require this special catalyst. So look at this value proposition. By 2030, there will be around 11 megastructures for ammonia cracking in the world. Some of them are built, some of them were built. And they can only use today the hot way of cracking. And this is very expensive. It will cost, just for energy, it will cost $200 million per year. We can do it at $90 million per year. And also, we can cut the capex, because if you can work at 400 Celsius, it is much cheaper infrastructure than at 750 degrees. So while doing that, we can reduce the price of hydrogen from ammonia by 15%, making hydrogen much more attractive. And by the way, this will reduce the cost for producing the hydrogen or shipping the hydrogen to $1.50. We can easily integrate it because we can just replace the existing catalyst with our catalyst, a drop-in solution. And we eliminate the risks of NOx. NOx is created at high temperature and it's very explosive. And because of that value proposition, there is a lot of traction to our solution. I can tell you that Port of Rotterdam, that is going to build the biggest infrastructure for ammonia cracking, is already working with us. Hyundai is also working with us for POCs on fuel cells and hydrogen engines. And there are several companies in Singapore that I think can benefit from our solution. A pilot in Singapore will look very much like this, maybe a bit bigger. We will produce 1 ton of hydrogen during a few months. We will work at a low temperature and compare ourselves to other catalysts. And you can see that we are in range of the price. By the way, our catalyst will be inside this reactor. We have a very strong team. I thought we are very young. We only started to work on the second half of 2024. 4 of them are PhDs. 2 of these PhDs are professors, and I will let you guess who is who. And I will leave you some time for questions. Thank you very much, and let's do it ceramic way.
Well done, Dr. Gillard. Thank you very much. We do indeed have time for questions. We've got 5 minutes, and we'll go to Axel first.
Hey, thanks for the presentation. I think it's really interesting. I want to ask about the transportation bit, right? Because I know you mentioned ammonia is widespread, but have you had conversations with potential transporters, let's say shippers, about how to handle ammonia transportation?
So actually, the transportation of ammonia is quite easy. You can do it at very low pressure, and it's liquid. And it is done all over the world because ammonia is the second most common chemical, and it is used for agriculture all the time. Now, the companies that are producing ammonia are approaching us because they understand that sales for the energy sector is much more interesting than sales for the agriculture sector. And actually, there are, I even presented one of these companies that want to produce not only ammonia, but also hydrogen with our catalyst.
Okay, and what are some of the competing solutions today? I think there are also some catalyst platforms out there. Can you speak to how you compare to those as opposed to the traditional way?
So today, the commercially available catalysts are only composed of two kinds of catalysts. One is nickel-based, which is the hot way of doing it, but very cheap catalyst and very abundant. And the other one is mainly based on ruthenium. Now, ruthenium is only available at 30 tons per year, and in very strange places of the world. And from that 30 tons, you can only use 4 to 5 tons for the hydrogen sector because it is also used for electronic sectors and also very additional catalyst sectors. So it is really rare and not really significant for the long run.
Thank you, Gilad.
Thank you.
Emily.
Yeah, hi, if I can come in. Thanks very much. It's very exciting that you're working with Port of Rotterdam, indeed the biggest project in the world today. My questions are around your core IP is in the catalyst. How do you produce it, and when you use it? Is it used in the standard traditional reactors, or do you need new coatings on the reactor walls to be able to withstand the catalyst? And then also, is it subject to degradation? Does it have to be replaced constantly, and therefore driving your cost up, for example?
So thank you for these excellent questions. We are making it at salt gel way. We buy it as salts, and then we produce it in salt gel way. Then we add some promoters that are metal oxides, but not rare metals. And all together, we add them together at around 500 Celsius. So it's a very green way of doing it. And as for the degradation of our catalyst, this is also very good news for us because we only work at 400 Celsius. So at 400 Celsius, the degradation is much slower than in 700, 800, even 600 Celsius. So I hope it will degrade eventually because I do want a business, but it will degrade quite slowly.
So as you produce it, as it's used, you have not tested it in the larger reactors, right? Because actually there aren't any crackers that are very large scale today. What is the scale that you have tested it at?
We are producing it right now at kilograms, and we have tested it for almost 1,000 hours. Mm-hmm. But we need to do it now in a much bigger scale, and this is a great opportunity to do it for 6 months at least, and to produce 1 ton of hydrogen.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. There are very few technologies like yours today.
Thank you very much.
Li Lang, gentlemen, we have 1 minute if you have a question.
Yeah, thank you very much. So the real world deployment depends not only on the catalytic activity, but also on the reaction heat management, hydrogen purification, fuel cell compatibility, among others. How do you ensure the overall compatibility is there? So again, not on the catalytic side, but everything else remains, and ensure that compatibility.
Okay, so this is a very difficult question. I can't. I mean,
you've only got 35 seconds.
I cannot expect what will happen with the hydrogen. Maybe they will find some atomic other. But from what I know, we have at least 20 years of running and with ammonia catalyst. And I really want to apologize to Brandy because I needed to show ammonia. I love you. I'm really sorry about that. I hope that the hydrogen is going the right way, and I think it has all the good reasons to go there.
Okay, we're done with our 5 minutes. Thank you for answering the questions, and thank you for supplying them. All right, we will move on to our next presentation, and that comes from Estia Corp. Representing them today is their co-founder and CEO, Tiffany Yeh. Now, their team has innovated a cooling wearable technology that absorbs body heat. I believe they've also handed out some samples to the judges for them to take a look at during the presentation. So Tiffany, after the 5-second chime, it's over to you.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Ye. At Estia, we make passive cooling materials that protect people from extreme heat. Estia was inspired by my time conducting global health fieldwork in some of the world's hottest environments. Heat waves are 5 times more likely today due to climate change. I've witnessed it firsthand. I'm an MIT-trained materials scientist and a UPenn-trained medical doctor. I started to think about how to build materials that can cool people. Jack Wilson, our COO, is a special operations veteran who served in Afghanistan and went on to scale early-stage defense technologies. Connor Lewis, our chief of staff, was a civil affairs officer in Northwest Africa and went on to combat extreme heat as a wildland firefighter. We know this problem very closely, and we're helping communities thrive in a hotter world today, not just for their health, but also for economics. 13 million full-time jobs were lost to heat stress in Southeast Asia just last year. In Singapore alone, 33,000 jobs were lost, and that resulted in a reduction of $1 billion in economic productivity. At Estia, we make lightweight cooling wearables that reduce body temperature without the use of electricity or refrigeration. Our secret sauce is a proprietary technology called HydroVolt. HydroVolt is a tunable polymer system that absorbs body heat, reduces skin temperature by 10 degrees Celsius upon the first few minutes of application, and sustains this temperature differential for the next 6 to 8 hours. HydroVolt is recharged in just 30 minutes with a coffee mug's worth of water. We integrate HydroVolt with textiles to create end garments such as base layer shirts and headbands. We engineer microstructures into these HydroVolt composites to increase evaporative drive in high humidity settings. For example, when we add 25% porosity into our composites, that augments temperature reduction by 35% and 30% faster evaporation. We have 1 granted patent and 2 more pending patents that cover our compositions, applications, and methods of making. We've demonstrated that HydroVolt improves human performance. When users wear HydroVolt shirts on a standard treadmill protocol, they achieve a reduction in average heart rate by 12 beats per minute and maximum heart rate by 19 beats per minute. This data has been independently replicated by one of our early customers. A construction team in Japan placed patches of HydroVolt on the job site and measured an initial surface temperature reduction of 11 degrees Celsius. After 4 hours of outdoor work, HydroVolt-covered surfaces were still 5 degrees cooler than the rest of the body. HydroVolt stands apart in the cooling tech landscape by combining ease of use, effectiveness, and affordability. Ice packs and cooling towels are very affordable, but they provide limited relief and are cumbersome to use in daily life. Cooling apparel is convenient, but as a standalone solution, insufficient. And this is precisely why we combine HydroVolt with textiles to create a synergistic solution. Finally, battery-powered wearables are complex, bulky, and hundreds of dollars more expensive than Estia wearables. Engineered microstructures in HydroVolt allow our solution to operate well in high humidity environments like Singapore and the broader Asia Pacific, where conventional cooling methods often fail. We estimate that each Estia wearable can save around 500 kilowatt hours of electricity that would otherwise be spent on air conditioning because our solution is rechargeable with water. The human cooling market is valued at over $40 billion, spanning worker safety, defense and public safety, and everyday sport. Our initial market focus is on worker safety. We sell to commercial employers who then distribute the products to their employees. We've pressure tested our initial pricing with early customers. Each cooling shirt is priced at $65. The cooling material inserts are replaced every 6 months to maintain ongoing protection. We also offer lower cost options such as body bands and headbands so that organizations have the flexibility to balance workforce needs along with budget considerations. In defense and public safety, we work very closely with elite U.S. Special Operations units to tailor our solution to fit their mission needs. And finally, we aim to touch everybody that is affected by extreme heat by expanding into everyday sport. Our goal is to help people stay active and spend time outdoors in the midst of a changing climate. We'll partner with sporting events and organizations to drive organic awareness. We are proposing a $1 million project to implement our technology with Singapore's construction sector. Our partners include City Developments Limited, who will together assess productivity KPIs, such as time spent on heat breaks. The Kajima Technical Research Institute, who will provide their own monitoring equipment to track worker biometrics, such as heart rate and core temperature, and Pan United. We will work with 400 construction workers in Singapore over 2 rounds of implementation. Each round involves a body band and 2 different shirts. We will conduct iterative R&D between these 2 rounds to further augment evaporative drive in high humidity settings. We would like to dedicate 10% of the grant for disaster relief efforts in Myanmar after last month's earthquake. Families have lost their homes and therefore access to cooling, and Save the Children and Health Poverty Action have specifically asked us to help by providing 1,000 body bands. The Global Fund has pledged that if this first distribution is successful, they will procure Estia wearables as medical supplies in bulk, therefore opening the door to the international development market. We are operators and scientists on a mission. You've met myself, Jack, and Connor. Now let me introduce our CTO, Na, who has invented multiple smart biomaterials. We are backed by United Nations veterans, MIT professors, exited defense tech founders. Please join us in empowering communities to thrive in a hotter world with passive, scalable cooling technologies. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. We'll now move on to our Q&A segment. Can I pass the time over to Lilang?
Wow, it's really light and really cooling. Where have you been? I think Singapore, a lot of people appreciate your material. In terms of the patches and these wearables reach the end of their lifespan, can they be disposed of just like normal textile?
Yes, so they are durable for up to 6 months, after which they experience some wear and tear, and then they go into landfill. We were actually just speaking with A-Star yesterday about exploring bacterial strains, because there's preliminary research in the literature about using bacterial enzymes to degrade this type of synthetic polymers that we work with, and therefore to confer biodegradability. And so that's something that we're exploring in the medium term.
So I know the cost at the moment, you're talking about $90 to $120 per year for this particular material. What are the other strategies that you're trying to adopt to push the cost even lower? Well, that means achieving economy of scale.
Definitely. So we're young and scrappy. We're actually just doing our first public launch this summer. So we're working with really small volumes. This is the highest cost in production that it will ever be. I'll say it this way. There are 2 components that go into the cost of production: the material itself and the garments that the material goes into. Right now, we're talking about very small batches. As we create more batches in terms of volume, the cost of especially the garments will go down dramatically, let's say like 90%. As for the material, we intentionally chose common chemical reagents. If you put equipment aside, which will also scale when we have volume, the cost of the chemical reagents themselves are on the order of a couple dollars. And that is why we really believe that this can reach the mass markets in the long run.
Just allow me one last question. Are there cases where users experience mild hypothermia due to excessive cooling, especially in entering the very cool environment suddenly?
That's actually why we've been very strategic about who we start with. We're working with adults who have high metabolic load because they're under activity. That's where we provide the greatest value, and that we are extracting heat from the body in real time. Where I think we may need to fine-tune the solution a little bit, as in like maybe actually make it less cold, is for certain vulnerable populations who are very temperature sensitive in either direction, such as the elderly, children, people with specific medical conditions. They're the people who are more likely to get hypothermia, and we'll have tailored solutions for them in the long term.
Thank you. Andrew Hyung, could I invite you to propose the next set of questions?
Yeah, thank you, Tiffany. You addressed the degradation and reuse, but how does hygiene parameters affect the polymer gel and that degradation as well?
Thank you for asking this. This actually gets us to ease of use and how the user actually experiences it. I'm a worker, I put it on, I wear it for a day. At the end of the day, I throw it into the washing machine, regular laundry detergent with the rest of your clothes. Super easy, that cleans it. Otherwise, if you're a military operator out in the field for 2 weeks, spray it with rubbing alcohol, that works too.
Got it, thank you. Would you be able to address your current unit economics and where, with the cost milestones, of where you hope to be?
I'll put it this way. To fabricate a piece of our material right now, we're talking about $10 to $15. In 6 to 12 months, we're aiming to get that down to more like $5. The rest comes from the garments. And the garments, even with just that single factory that we're working with in Taiwan, we're going from 100 units to 2,000 units. Is going down 75% in the cost. We're not even talking about real large-scale garment factories in Southeast Asia yet.
We have about 40 seconds on the clock if any of the other judges have a short question.
Yeah. Have you ever tested it on someone working in a hot environment for like long hours? Like, how long does this hold up in keeping the temperature difference and comfort, for example? Like, say, it's smooth material, you might get sweat in between it, right? You could get rashes. Yeah.
I'll answer this in 2 parts. Big shout out to Kajima Construction. They're actually the Kajima in Japan specifically. They're actually the team who provided the photos earlier, where they spent a day at a time working outdoors. Our material was thinner at the time, so after 4 hours during lunch break, they will recharge. So that was a real life demonstration, and they've kind of fulfilled multiple pilots at this point. The other one with regards to sweat, the material actually absorbs sweat. So that's a good thing because it can actually auto-recharge itself throughout the day. It's just that if you're working for 12 hours at a time, we still do recommend that you recharge it at the end of the day.
Thank you, Tiffany. And our time is up. So sorry, Axel. Thank you, judges, for your questions, and Tiffany for your answers. We'll be moving on now to our next team, CO2 Tech. Representing them today is their senior engineer, Dr. Jai Kant. Their team has created a cost-effective and compact carbon capture solution. Dr. Jai, just a reminder that there'll be a 5-second countdown, and then the time is yours.
Hello everyone, I am Jay Pandit from CO2 Tech. I am here to challenge climate change. As we all know that in 2024, we have recorded the highest ever carbon dioxide emission. 68% of this emission was coming from carbon intensive power and industrial sector. This was despite the rapid growth in renewables. Therefore, to cut the emission at scale, we have to go for carbon capture, utilization, and storage. However, the cost of capture is high, and there are not many countries who have got suitable storage for carbon dioxide. Singapore is one of such countries. To meet this challenge, we are proposing an end-to-end solution where we are going to capture carbon dioxide effectively and going to store it in valuable product. By doing so, we are reducing our dependency on geological storage of carbon dioxide. This makes our solution cost-effective as well as sustainable. The core of our solution is the high-cap technology from CO2 Tech. High-cap combination of 2 most mature carbon capture technology, absorption and membrane. High-caps provide 10 times more specific area compared to solvent technology. This makes capture very compact, modular, scalable, and cost-effective. Moreover, high-caps is future-proof. Any improvement in absorption or membrane will be directly transferred to high caps for its improvement. Currently, high caps is at TRL 6. We have demonstrated this technology at multiple industrial locations in Australia. Moving forward to TRL 7, we have completed the feasibility and basic engineering with support from PUB and Pan United Singapore. This demonstration is going to de-risk our technology and going to fix the scale-up criteria. Moving forward to TRL 8, we are going to capture 100 tons of carbon dioxide per day. This carbon dioxide will be used for concrete curing. By doing so, we are going to generate 23.7 kilotons of negative emission. Moreover, we are going to reduce the consumption of cement by 206 kiloton, and thus we are going to save the emission associated with the cement production. When we are applying our solution at large scale, we are going to capture 85% of Singapore's emission, which is equivalent to 48 megatons of capture per year. Then we are going to aim for the global emission, which is 6 gigatons per year. We are getting strong support from across the industry for our solution. This support is coming from major multinational companies and reputed business and industrial sector. We are getting this support because our solution is providing some unique advantages over our competitors. Our is complete end-to-end solution, which can be applied to variety of the flue gases. It can reduce emission from gas turbine and coal-based power generation, hard-to-abate industries like steel and cement, and other industries like chemical, fertilizer, and hydrogen. With high caps, we are able to reduce the energy consumption of capture process significantly. This has resulted in bringing down the cost of capture to as low as $28 per ton, and the total cost of abatement has come down by 40%. This is strongly supported by our business model, where we are going to generate multiple revenue streams through licensing, service, and consultancy. We are going to address the market, which is growing at very rapid rate, and by 2034, this market will be worth $33 billion. Initially, we are going to target Southeast Asia, then we'll move to Asia Pacific and the global market. Therefore, our business model is comprehensive, growth-oriented, and sustainable. When we apply this business model to our first project with PUB Singapore, the project developer is going to get an IRR of 23% and a very attractive payback period, which is less than 4 years. Not only this, the off-taker of the carbon dioxide is going to save around $3.2 million on cost of sourcing carbon dioxide at much lower rate. As a technology provider, we are going to generate annual revenue of around $1 million. Therefore, our solution is not only about the emission control, it is also providing a very good business opportunity to the investor. For a 24-month demonstration period, the estimated cost is around 4.3 million Singapore dollar. Our project partners are contributing $3.3 million in form of cash and in-kind support. Today, we seek $1 million from TLC and investor. This contribution will help us in reducing the risk of the technology, and it is going to accelerate the commercial implementation of our solution. To implement our solution, we have a strong team who can turn this breakthrough solution to the real-world applications. Now I'm coming to the urgency. We are far behind in our emission target. We require 150 times more carbon capture than what we are doing today. We have to capture 6 gigatons of carbon dioxide per year. To capture such a huge amount of carbon dioxide, it is very important for us to take the crucial step of de-risking and scaling of the new technology. Then and only then we can make the real impact and attain our sustainable goal. We have to take smart move and invest in a solution which is complete, modular, scalable, cost-effective, and has global application. Our end-to-end solution provides all these benefits. I appeal to the investor to join CO2 Tech for a sustainable and successful partnership. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Jai, CO2 Tech. Let's have some questions from our judges then. Let's begin with Andrew Hyung.
Okay, for question and answer session, I want to...
You do. My apologies. Yes, let me invite your colleague to the stage, please. Could you introduce your colleague for us?
Yeah, he is K.S. Chen. He is the Chief Commercialization Officer at CO2 Tech.
Perhaps we could reset the clock to 5 minutes, seeing as that was my error. Thank you very much indeed. Andrew, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. I think last page I really summed up what I wanted to see: modular, complete, scalable, cost-effective, which you've all mentioned. So how, I guess, kind of honing in on that, how modular is the membrane unit, and can it be scaled linearly without any loss in efficiency?
Yeah, it is totally modular. And once we are going to test one module, then all the modules will follow the same performance. So if you are going to keep on module, it is not going to affect its efficiency or performance.
And on the,
maybe I'll just add as well, basically. So the technology basically is a hybrid technology as well, basically. So any improvement in the membrane and also solvent technologies is basically will be applied to these technologies. So as we improve any technologies, that the modularity and also the improvement of that technologies can be improved more as well.
Got it, appreciate it. And in terms of scalability, thanks for the slide about going to TRL 7 and 9. Would love to hear about some key constraints when it comes to execution risks as you scale up, as well as any cost variances expected from going from pilot to full-scale systems.
So I think one of the risks is basically we have already done a lot of pilot tests. I think Dr. Jai have already shown basically. We already have that pilot test in Australia, which we already quite confident of the scaling up. So we are doing the pilot test here in Singapore right now. Basically, it's just to de-risk the part of as the concentrations that we are testing at this pilot testing in Singapore is slightly lower. We want to make sure that we de-risk that part as well. So that is where we are doing the pilot testings. But we are quite confident that technologies as it grow, it can we already have confidence. Basically, we already done that in Australia. And now we want to just make sure that that part of the de-risking can be done in Singapore, and it can apply to other industries as well.
Thanks, Andrew. Axel, I think you have some questions, perhaps?
Yeah, thanks, guys. I mean, it's interesting to see hybrid solution, right? Usually you're comparing like pure membrane, solvent-based, and other options. I just want to ask about the cost per removal of CO2. That number that you shared on the slide, does that include you having the off-taker to purchase the CO2 for use in the carbon curing process?
The cost which we have mentioned is around $28 US. It is the only cost of carbon capture. So to add to this, we have to add only the cost of transport, which is not very much.
Got it. So what you're saying is the upside is you can still then monetize that carbon captured with the carbon curing process. Could you also share whether there are any potential technical challenges with scaling up, putting this into carbon curing and then using it in large-scale construction projects?
So far, we do not think that there is any technical challenge on CCS. The main challenge which is coming on CCS is coming from the policies and regulation sector. And also, when we are going to do the concrete manufacturing from this, we have to make sure that it is not affecting the physical property of concrete. So that has yet to be tested.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe I just add on that part as well. Basically, I think carbon cure process is really a commercial process, and they are using quite high purity of CO2, which is around, at this stage, they are using liquefied CO2, which is 99%. For us to capture CO2, basically, we can range our capturing efficiency or purity. So the lower purity that we can capture, basically, the price will come down more, basically. So for us, basically, we can, in this pilot test, we will test that. So basically, to make sure that do we really need to go to 99% or we can lower it, in that case, our capture cost will be lower. So I think that is something that we want to also test to make sure that we get a better commercial product.
Okay. What's the amount, the purity reached so far in the test?
We have done the test in, like I say, in Australia. Basically, we can reach up to 93, 94%. Yeah. So basically, for us to go liquefy, we just have to take out the water. In this case, there's also benefit for us because our part we have low contaminations, only water. Once you remove the water, we can reach quite high purity, basically up to 99.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, judges. With only 15 seconds left, I think we'll conclude it there. Thank you very much for your presentation and participation. And thanks again to the judges for their questions. Our next presenter comes from Ctogenics, and representing them is their CEO, Trevor Stuthridge. Ctogenics is a New Zealand-based clean tech startup that converts waste into circular bioeconomy products. And Trevor, once the 5-second chime is done, the floor is yours.
Kia ora tātou. I'm Trevor Stuthridge, co-founder and CEO for Ctogenics. We believe that the most compelling requirement for urban decarbonisation in high-density urban environments and island nations like Singapore is fossil energy dependence. Singapore generates 95% of its energy and electricity from natural gas, which is 100% imported. All of Singapore's organic waste is mostly incinerated using large amounts of natural gas as well. Although the recovery of energy and value from natural gas incineration is very poor, we still are having to invest up to billions of dollars in new incineration capacity in Singapore every 5 years to keep up with waste capacity. Singapore's complete requirement and addiction to natural gas means that at the moment it is ranked 160th in the world for its ability to meet 2050 climate goals. Ctogenics has developed a waste-to-X technology called CetoBoost. CetoBoost precisely deconstructs and transforms industrial, municipal and agricultural waste streams using air, temperature and pressure and no other chemicals into renewable natural gas that yields 40% higher than our competitors. This biomethane has a carbon intensity 6 times lower than fossil gas and is considered a zero carbon product by regulators and policymakers. We also extract green ammonia, biogenic carbon dioxide, and phosphorus, which can be used to decarbonise upstream feed and food production value chains. This is a true plug-and-play solution. Our system fits into a 40-foot container and can process 25,000 tonnes per module. The nature of our technology means that we have a relatively low capital cost. And so our competitive advantage is that we can take high wet waste streams like biosolids from sewage treatment and food production and not have to dry them to process them. We're also able to recover that water and recycle it. It also means that we can divert this wet waste from the incineration system, opening up capacity for other waste streams, lowering renewable natural gas demands to evaporate the water, and providing more energy production from the incinerator. We take complex organic wastes and convert them into simple molecules like methane and ammonia that have existing value chains and infrastructure. The nature of our chemistry means that we can destroy contaminants like microplastics and persistent organic pollutants. We don't generate nasty, hard-to-treat wastewaters, or digestates, or biochar. Singapore has tried to get out of incineration over the years by looking at composting and anaerobic digestion. But frankly, in urban environments where land is a premium, it's impossible to scale up those technologies here. Our modular compact system has a very small physical footprint and therefore can be deployed within the urban environment. And then relative to our competitors, we're an energy positive technology. We generate up to 5 kilowatts of energy for every kilowatt of electricity we use in our process. And that's because we're taking advantage of the calorific value of the waste itself to create energy from the system. So for Singapore, what are some of the options? Well, we think a distributed model is the opportune thing to do here in Singapore rather than a centralised model. So our modules could be deployed into industrial sites like wastewater treatment plants or processing plants, but it could also be deployed into municipal environments, perhaps deployed into condominium complexes, into hotels or hospitals, or into food halls. Some of the transportation hubs have very high organic waste streams, so we could target them. Changi Airport could have one of our hubs. The cruise terminal could have one of our hubs. Perhaps we could even put it into cruise ships themselves so they can treat their waste while at sea and not leave it here in Singapore when they visit. More broadly, we've identified over 37,000 sites around the world suitable for retrofitting or greenfields installation of our technology. This is a $130 billion total available market. And this is a market that's growing exponentially every year as regions like Europe seek to be energy self-sufficient and look at low-carbon energy supply chains. With our revenue model, where wastewater treatment plants would be capital sales and other users would be lease operate, we predict we could generate over $200 million US by 2030 with our system. We were created in 2022, and a successful seed round at that point has allowed us to go to 3 generations of the technology, and we're currently at TRL 7. We're moving to TRL 7 and TRL 8 deployment with strategic go-to-market partners such as Anglian Water and Severn Trent, 2 of the largest water companies in the United Kingdom. We're working with Nature Energy in Europe, which is one of the best anaerobic digestion biogas companies out of Denmark. And we've partnered with PepsiCo, who are looking to convert organic waste into natural gas alternatives for their carbon zero policy. We have our first commercial plant sale at Trinity Lands, a large dairy farm company in New Zealand, looking to deploy our technology by 2027. The co-founders of Ctogenics developed the IP for this company and have worked together for over 20 years. We have deep international experience in technology development in the climate tech and waste-to-X space. We're ably supported by a broad team of technical staff in engineering, chemistry, biotechnology, and business development. And our board has deep international experience in commercialisation and investment, including in Southeast Asia and Singapore itself. So what's the impact potential for our technology? We believe we could treat all of the food waste and sewage waste out of Singapore, approximately 1 million tonnes a year. And the renewable natural gas we generate from that system will be sufficient to replace all of the townhouse gas supply in Singapore. That's 800 households who could cook and heat their houses with domestic gas made from renewable natural gas. The payback period for our system would be 2.7 years, and we would reduce the capital cost by over 90% compared to an equivalent incinerator. Ctogenics believes the total opportunity for Singapore is enormous and is an exemplar for other island economies, such as Taiwan, South Korea, Japan, the Philippines, maybe the Pacific Islands. It's a compelling opportunity to take organic waste, turn it into renewable carbon, and defossilise and decarbonise. We want to build renewable futures with no waste left behind. Kia ora.
Thank you. Thank you, Trevor, for that presentation. We'll now begin our 5-minute Q&A. Could I invite Andrew Wong to pose the first question?
Thanks, Trevor. Just a question, I guess, on the flexibility of the system, right? I mean, you can have certain outputs, ammonia, natural gas, and then your inputs are also pretty varied as well. So, I mean, how much can you tune it to be like, oh, I want maybe 80% natural gas, I want maybe in one system I want 40% ammonia? I mean, is it dependent on the inputs, and how does that work?
Yeah, basically all of the nitrogen goes to ammonia, so the ammonia recovery is related to nitrogen content of the waste material itself. With respect to tunability of the carbon, we're making a fermentable carbon material that can then go to renewable natural gas production through our fermenter system, but we can also use the technology for bioplastics production or for other biochemical production. So we can tune really the composition of the material. We find that fundamentally the feedstock makes very little difference to the performance of the system other than the calorific value and the dry weight content.
Great, understood. And I guess on the the model here, is it going to be you guys owning and operating all these different units? Because I mean, you're dealing with things like ammonia, natural gas. I mean, I assume it could be dangerous. People may not know how to handle it, so on and so forth. So.
The wastewater treatment industry themselves, and that's why there's a capital sales model, are able to handle all those issues themselves because that's what they do on a day-to-day basis. With our lease operate model, we're looking to partner with other anaerobic digestion and renewable energy partners who are already in that market and already handling those sort of issues. So we're a platform provider, and we will provide the technology through license and partnership.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Axel?
Yeah, thanks for the, I guess, very comprehensive presentation. I like the idea that it generates energy as well. I'd like to ask about operational processes, right? Because you mentioned wastewater, you also talk about, dealing with incinerators and garbage. What are some of the things that you have to work on to build this whole process into one of the existing treatment plants? And does it require you guys to set up a team on site, and what is the influence to the existing workflow?
Yeah, again, wastewater treatment companies are doing this all the time with their own biosolids, and they have the technical expertise to run these systems. Our main challenge in our technology with respect to that is that certainly in Singapore, where you don't segregate waste, we would need to remove the glass and metals out of the system. However, our process is able to manage and process plastics, so waste plastics can stay in our feedstocks. Well, with respect to technical know-how, the standard operators of these systems around the world and the wastewater treatment industry themselves are very competent in managing and operating these systems themselves.
Okay, so I guess then the question is there an elegant way to do the waste separation, right?
Well, it's about getting rid of glass and metal primarily, and I would suggest that that will just require some nominal separation technologies that is used mostly around the rest of the world for organic waste segregation. So I think that would be just a small additional capital cost to do it here in an urban environment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We still have about 2 minutes on the clock if any other judges have questions.
I guess I'll ask another one on, I guess, tech side of things. What are the challenges when it comes to operating these over a longer period of time? I mean, is there corrosion? Is there, solid precipitation that could happen as well in the systems, and how do you deal with that?
That's a very good question. We're often asked that. Under the conditions in which we operate, we've seen no evidence of scaling. We've seen no evidence of corrosion. We're operating at reasonably mild conditions compared to pyrolysis or gasification. And so we don't have to use exotic alloys, etc., to avoid those sort of issues. So far, no evidence of that. But part of the TRL8 project we're doing in Singapore will be a long-term study to see if that does eventuate. So far, we're pretty confident we're not going to have those issues.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We still have 1 minute left on the clock. If any judges have any further questions. If not, thank you so much, Trevor, for your presentation and for your questions. Thank you, judges, as well. And that actually brings us to the end of our pitch segment. Please give the 8 finalists here today a round of applause for their wonderful presentations. Thank you to the teams for all your hard work and for your insightful pitches. And again to our judges for your hard-hitting questions. Judges, I'd now like to invite you to please adjourn to the VIP room for your deliberations. As the judges start making their way, we'd like to invite everyone here in the audience to play judge as well. So you can scan the QR code on the screen here to participate in our popular vote. Let us know who you think deserves to be the winner of TLC 2025. Right after this, we also have a TLC Innovation Dialogue scheduled. But before we move on to the dialogue, we also have a special video prepared for you all here today. This video spotlights our past TLC winners and where they are now. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy.
We recognise that there's a huge demand for biofuels, both sustainable aviation fuel, but also things like biodiesel.
We might be an expert in the industry, but doesn't mean what we are doing is the best options, or there's no room anymore left for optimization, for improvement.
Grand winner for 2024 for climate change goes to gas.
One of the advantages of the Liveability Challenge is that, you really have a sort of journey that it's not like, oh, you've won, congratulations, here you go, good luck with it. It's no, okay, we've got a roadmap, we've got goals, we want to see how we can really make this work for us as a company, but also, of course, how we make this work in Singapore and how we could contribute to the whole purpose of the challenge in the first place.
For the food and nutrition track goes to Cricket One. Huge congratulations to Cricket One.
It was a very big change for Cricket One after the Liveability Challenge. So firstly, in terms of awareness, the challenge itself and also the backer of the challenge, which is Temasek Foundations, had a very strong, long-time standing reputations of what is their focus and what they're trying to nurture and what they are supporting. So by winning the challenge, it also gives us a very strong credentials in the industrial market.
And fortunately, we have technology that is able to make these fuels. And what we basically do is make a used cooking oil alternative. So within this sort of value chain that we have, our main core business is the fact that we take different types of wastes, we ferment them, we make them into lipids and fats, and then downstream be used for sustainable aviation fuel. They could also be used for biodiesel, a number of different applications.
When it comes to animal farming, of course, it's that there are so many variants that we have to control, and then we have to optimize to de-risk the whole process. And especially is that when we get to the scale of industrial productions, we also recently expand the business into FMCGs, where we include and fortify cricket protein into different convenient food. So right now we have almost like spreading out to 9 different product lines.
You have to be very open to the idea that opportunities are going to be available, and when those present themselves, you have to take them. And you also need to be open to the fact that the initial configuration of what you thought things were going to be like can change.
At the end of the day, it's like you can sell the sustainability, but if consumers don't know how to get your product or don't know why they have to pay for it, then it's still an unscalable idea.
Video. Hope you all enjoy that video, and now that you can hear me, it certainly does give some insight, doesn't it, into the types of solutions that we've supported previously, and also the value of innovation challenges like TLC. So we're seeing history in the making again today. Here to tell us more about the role of disruptive technologies in strengthening climate resiliency are our panelists for today's Innovation Dialogue, which we're calling From Testbed to Trailblazer in search of the X Factor in climate tech. So allow me to invite our distinguished speakers to the stage. The Chief Operating Officer of Nandina REM, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Dasril Puar. Joining Dr. Puar, Director of Urban Solutions and Sustainability Enterprise Singapore, Magdalene Loh, and also the Chairman of Cetrium, Mark Gainsborough. Together with our moderator, Jessica Chum, founder and CEO EcoBusiness. Jessica, my great pleasure to pass the stage over to you.
Thank you very much, Steve, and good afternoon to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome. I'm super delighted to be your moderator this year. You would have recognized me as the host in previous years, but I'm really, really glad to be facilitating this chat with 3 very, very distinguished speakers. And wow, the solutions that we've seen today are incredible. I think we were just chatting among ourselves that the popular vote itself was quite hard to determine. But let me paint some broad strokes to our conversation here this afternoon. Earlier, you would have seen our TLC 2025 finalist teams in action, showcasing their disruptive technologies. TLC has always been a signature event of Ecosperity, so you're definitely at the right place if you like a dose of optimism and inspiration. This is our 8th year, and the platform has grown since inception tremendously. And we've also heard a lot about the different ways in which we can mobilize capital to scale up sustainability solutions at Ecosperity, especially as Asia races towards its 2030 emission targets. And I love that TLC is really the ground zero for action, because it is here that capital is deployed into real-world solutions and having real-world impact. We've had Bill Gates speak at Ecosperity this week about the need to really scale innovations and build ecosystems. We've had experts, business leaders, financiers talk about catalytic funding and the role that it plays in climate solutions. But besides the access to finance, the question that has often been posed is, what is that X factor that truly enables an idea to succeed? And in truth, it is a combination of factors, not just one, and the ability to create that confluence of factors that determines failure or success. And here in Singapore, the sustainability innovation ecosystem has grown over the years to become a vibrant and exciting landscape in which possibilities are endless. So it's with this backdrop that I turn to Magdalene to start us off. With your role overseeing urban solutions and sustainability at Enterprise Singapore, what do you define as the X factor? And what are some of the critical aspects that really help startups move from the prototype stage into commercial markets?
Thanks very much for having me here. Hi everyone, my name is Magdalene. If you ask me if there's one single factor, it's very difficult to pinpoint. As you mentioned earlier, Jess, for me, I think that it would be actually a balance of certain factors that contribute to a startup's scalability and exportability. And some of these factors include how effective is the technology vis-a-vis the price point that the customer is willing to accept. And the third point is the ease of implementation. We actually do interact with quite a number of startups that emerge out of, for example, research institutes or IHLs. And many do show very promising results from the lab and even up to pilot scale point. Then the question will be, at what price can the consumer or the adopter take it on? And they will be comparing against what they are using today. So this will be one of the balancing acts that I think will be the magic potion or X factor that startups do need to see. And the third factor we do see very often is the ease of implementation. Because today, many of the climate tech solutions that we're seeing do need to interact with existing infrastructure, existing systems that clients would be already used to, and how would these tech solutions integrate? And many times you do need the buy-in internally within the organization, not just with the innovation team. You know, there are different facets of the clients that would need to get the buy-in of as well. So I think it will be a balance of these three factors. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Madeline. Mark, I'll come to you. You're chairman at Ctogenics, but I know you also led Shell's renewables business, and you're an active mentor to many climate innovations. And what are your thoughts on what the X factor is?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and although people know me here mainly because I chair Ctogenics, but I do a lot of stuff in the startup space. I actually have my own startup. I'm one of the founders of a startup in the UK at the moment, which was about to go out for seed funding. So I kind of know the pain of early stage venturing, and also I looked after Shell's corporate venture capital outfit, Shell Ventures, for 4 years. So I've seen a lot of early stage companies. First thing I have to say is all of the companies that presented today, amazing, really high quality and high caliber, great ideas, and all of them have a real world application. And that's one of the things that people often struggle with. They have a great technology, a great idea, but there isn't a market for it. There isn't a real demand. There isn't a proper use case. But if there is a good use case, the thing that you look at as an investor, as the X factor, is the people. Because when it's not just you're investing in a technology, you're investing in the people behind the technology and the ones that are going to bring it to market. So that was the number one thing that I always look for is, are the people going to be able to make this a success? Do they have the sort of vision? Do they have the drive? Do they have the skills to develop the business? And of course, what you see is that very often, the founders of a business are fantastic at the first stage. Maybe they can't do the scaling up because there's a big transition that a startup has when it goes from seed funding through Series A, Series B, and all the rest. So that's the X factors, the people. It's people that are good enough to see the original idea, drive it, get the funding, because if you don't have the funding, you can't do anything, and then the ability to actually scale the business up. And very often, founders and early stage companies, they massively underestimate how difficult it is to scale up from the early pilot stage of their ideas into demonstration and then full-scale commercial operation. But X Factor is, like the X Factor on TV, it's the people.
That's great, Mark. But just building on some of your points, we've seen this year that it's been sort of a global chaos. Internationally, we've seen trade tensions, geopolitical risks. Do you see that as having a great impact on the capital that's being deployed, or the success rate for climate startups, in fact?
It's a bit, to be honest, it's a disaster at the moment in terms of if you don't have a long cash runway as a startup, you could be in trouble. It's going to take people a lot longer to raise money now than it has done. So those of us that have been in the climate tech space for a while have seen these cycles of, unfortunately, post-pandemic, we had massive over-exuberance, people were investing at crazy valuations. And now there's a hangover effect from that. So people binged, now it's a massive hangover, and everybody is extremely reticent. And indeed, some of the sectors that were represented in the companies here, it's a really tough gig to raise money at the moment. So I think it is a tough time. Of course, the whole world at the moment, there's massive uncertainty. People aren't hiring, they aren't investing. A lot of things have slowed down, so it makes it extra tough. So I think the important thing, for early stage companies is don't underestimate the amount of time it's going to take to raise money. And when you do raise money, raise enough so you're not continuously raising money. Because as a founder of the business, you've got to run the business and develop the business. If you're constantly fundraising, then you can't focus on the business itself.
Those are really good points. Thank you, Mark. Dasrul, I'll come to you. You were one of the finalists last year, and then Dina has gone on to do really amazing things. But, what are some of the challenges that you face, post-TLC, and given the global economic climate as well? Tell us about, your journey.
Thank you, Jessica, for having us back here. It's really great to be back here. So challenges that we see, of course, is with any startup to attract capital. What in our experience, what has benefited us is when we have investors who understand the systemic change that we are building and understand the long runway that we have to deploy the solutions that we are putting out. I think the other challenge that we also face is really to get them sort of like the commercial validation of our technological solution. So how we overcome this is really to work very closely with our customers to continually do innovation and dialogue with them to continually refine our solutions. And we realize that it's not something that we can solve ourselves just by one company in a hard-to-abate sector like aviation where we are in. So that's why we created this consortium together with other founding partners like Qantas, GEMCO. It's called the Aviation Circularity Consortium. It's really to scale the adoption of circular materials in the manufacturing of aerospace parts. So that's how we've been overcoming some of these challenges.
Wonderful. Magdalene, I'll come back to you because we're here in Singapore, and of course, Ecosperity is a fixture in the calendar for climate action and mobilizing capital as well as energizing business leaders, etc. How does Singapore play that key role of being the hub and the test bed for these climate solutions, and what sort of, regulatory frameworks enable us to be, that sort of have that sort of status?
Thanks very much. Actually, if you ask me, one of the things that Singapore has is really trying to build an ecosystem that encourages startups to scale. Many of the challenges that Mark and Dasrul mentioned, access to financing, working with an investor, working with a client who is able to put in and commit the resources, we try to catalyze some of that. And one of the things that we do is to work very closely with the industry as well as the RIHLs and the research community in Singapore and overseas to create some initiatives to enable some of these things. Of course, many of the negotiations are on a commercial basis, but what we try to do is to identify demand drivers, buyers who could potentially work with these startups. We have various platforms to do that. And the government itself, for example, the Housing Development Board of Singapore, the JTC in Singapore, we ourselves are some of the lead demand drivers. We have open innovation platforms to take on some of these new technologies, not just with the objective of helping Singapore's needs, but also to see how we can proliferate and provide startups with some of these track records. And this allows also the startups to have real-time deployment. They can fine-tune their problems and also understand what the end user would probably face in the future when they scale. Secondly, I think we try to, one of the issues that Mark talked about was also talent. We may not be the best teachers, but we work with people who could be the best teachers. So we do try to attract venture builders, accelerators in specific fields to work with some of these founders who may not have the experience of commercializing their products today. In the climate tech field, for example, we do work with Imagine H2O. It's a US-based accelerator where they have worked with more than 50 startups in Singapore and brought them to 12 countries across the Asia Pacific. We've also launched a partnership together with Temasek and Breakthrough Energy, fellow Southeast Asia, to help companies in the climate tech space looking in the Southeast Asia region to see and provide mentorship and more importantly, the access for market access and regional opportunities in the region. So we try to build that pool. And lastly, I know the investment climate is a little bit poor at the moment, but we still try to anchor some of the key funds in Singapore as well. It's a whole of government effort to do so. And within the government as well, we also have our own venture arm, where we work with other venture capitalists and other investors to try to catalyze some of these investments. And of course, it spans many sectors, but sustainability and climate tech is one of the key pillars as well. Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. Mark, you are a global citizen, and thank you for coming all the way down from London to join us here. But I know you're very well traveled, between the two cities. What is it about Singapore that, perhaps could provide that unique testbed or location for startups? And is there anywhere else in the world that you feel also, give climate technological innovations a good chance at success?
Yeah, I think traditionally climate tech was focused more in the US, especially on the West Coast, and also in Europe, because what helps you need to have a kind of VC ecosystem that can really encourage you, the like-minded people to hang out with. There are lots of potential people to fund your business. So being part of an ecosystem is kind of important. And traditionally, historically, there wasn't a great VC and early stage ecosystem in Southeast Asia. I think it's actually developed a lot over the last 10 years. Things have really come a long way. I see many more sort of interesting startups coming out of this part of the world. And I think Singapore is in a great position to be a hub for the region and to attract a lot of talent. And that's what you see happening is people will come to Singapore and set up shop here for an early stage company because they're then part of that ecosystem. I think also, to be honest, the government here does a great job of encouraging things through things like Enterprise Singapore and other organizations that help to provide some of that seed funding. One of the other ecosystem things that's really important for early stage companies is the link between the academic world and the commercial world. So historically, the Americans were very good at making that bridge from academia into the commercial world. They kind of had a global lead versus everywhere else. It's getting better in other places as well. I mean, one of the things I'm doing at the moment is chairing a startup, which is a spin out from Oxford University in the UK. And Oxford set up their own venture capital fund, Oxford Science Enterprises, to provide seed funding for those sort of ventures. So we wouldn't have grown as quickly if we didn't have OSE behind us. And I think there are similar schemes here in Singapore which can help enable people to grow quickly. So I'm very optimistic about the future for early stage companies in Singapore. I think things are really developing well, and I think it will go from strength to strength and be a very competitive hub for venture capital investors. The only one additional thing that I would recommend is that in the UK, one of the reasons companies get a lot of angel investing funding is an incredibly generous tax break for doing that. So, no, but in Singapore, your taxes aren't that high to start off with, so you probably don't need it anyway.
Thank you so much, Mark. We shall communicate that message to our regulators. But Dezro, coming to you, as the management team of a startup founder, how has being based in Singapore helped you or maybe hindered you? And is there, some regulatory bugbears that you feel need to break free, not just Singapore, but anywhere that enables, this sort of innovation to reach commercial success a little quicker?
Yes, I think it's been a great benefit being a startup, a small company here in Singapore, like what Magdalene and Mark has mentioned. There's a lot of opportunities and grants and partnerships with research institutes and all that to really scale. So I can share from Nandina's experience. When we started recovering materials from these end-of-life assets, starting with the retired aircraft, we discovered there was a lot of end-of-life carbon fiber material. And there's definitely a technical need to recover these high-value materials. Currently, only about maybe 5% of carbon fiber materials are being recycled. So we were very intentional. We went into the local research ecosystem to find partners who are already working on such technology. And we identified them in several institutes in A-Star. And we've worked very well with them, and we've tapped onto the various public-private partnership grants and initiatives that we have here in Singapore. We've been able to, because there's that alignment of technical need as well as a commercial pathway for recycled carbon fiber as well. So we've been able to move it from the lab in A-Star. Now we are setting up a pilot facility, but we've also launched sort of like a small volume of aviation-grade recycled carbon fiber that has already customers already. So yeah, we've definitely benefited from this ecosystem here in Singapore. As to challenges, that certain things that are certain bugbears is that in highly regulated sectors like aviation, there's sometimes the regulations are unclear. So what we have to do is really map out with our different stakeholders the clear pathways for certification, for compliance, and for traceability, such that our solutions can be adopted at scale. Yeah.
Amazing, thank you. I'm going to come to the audience for questions, and you can either submit them through Slido, which is going to be flashed here, or you can raise your hand and I will come to you. But as you guys put in your questions, I'm going to pose one to all three of you. We've talked a lot about public-private partnerships and, at PAS, maybe also philanthropic partnerships. What are some success stories that you've seen, whether it's Singapore, Asia, or the world, that you think we should emulate more of? Magdalene, maybe I come to you on some private-public partnerships that you're very proud of.
Okay. Actually, I have so many that I can't. It's
That's
a
good
bit
news.
hard for me to think of it. But actually, maybe more closer to home, maybe because that's where we interact more with the companies based in Singapore. It's amazing that we managed to work in a very small market. So we do have companies across the water sector, the built environment sector, who have seen some form of success. Of course, they are not unicorns yet. So one example would be companies like Gush. I think there was a colleague that was also talking about aerogels earlier. We also have companies we've seen who have built a commercial model around sustainable paints, and they have a value proposition of, for example, purifying the air, dehumidifying the air, eliminating bacteria. And though it does come with a little bit of premium, it does bring commercial value to the customers. They have also created different types of products catering to different needs of the developers. So, for example, in Singapore, where manpower cost is a big deal, they created a type of paint that only requires the contractors to paint it once across. So it reduces the amount of paint they need as well as the manpower needed to paint a development. So there are examples like Gush as well. We've also worked with companies like Aprisium, which is a company that detects contaminants in municipal waters, and they've seen quite a good success and managed to scale across the region as well. So quite encouraging. Yeah.
Wonderful,
Thank you.
Mark, any?
Yeah, I wanted to take a slightly different approach to this question, because there's lots of good examples of public-private partnerships to get things going. The problem is deploying things at scale and the whole scaling up thing, where, to be honest, if you're any company, and particularly an early stage company, you're managing three things: technology risk, market risk, and regulatory risk. And normally, technology risk often is the least of the problem. The problem is the market going to develop the way expected? And is there a supportive policy framework and regulation? And unfortunately, there are too many cases in the climate tech space where the market hasn't developed as we expected because of an ever-changing landscape for policy and regulation. And the biggest thing that, public bodies could do to encourage the private sector is to have a bit more consistency. So if the government here says, yeah, we're definitely going to have a carbon tax that's going to go up in the future, then they need to deliver on that, because otherwise you're building your business on a market opportunity that could be massively delayed. We're seeing at the moment there's a lot of companies in the green hydrogen space that are really struggling because of market risk, because the market's taking longer to develop than expected. Or EV charging businesses that now people are walking back on their EV targets and the market's slowed down. So there's It would be really great if governments could get a bit more consistent. I think that's another reason why it's good here in Singapore, because the government is generally more consistent in its policy outlook than other countries. And to be honest, in a lot of places, trust has kind of broken down between governments and the private sector. So the more you can create that sort of trust that we're all on the same page, and by the way, the policy isn't going to change with every electoral cycle, I think that would give us a much better chance to scale up all of these technologies that we desperately need.
Super well said, Mark. And we just had our elections here as well, so there's some consistency for sure. But Dazru, over to you. Any sort of thoughts on some of successful partnerships, like in your case or around you maybe?
Yeah, I'll share from our perspective. So we've been able to tap onto one good initiative that is from EDB as well as from ESG is this, where we could partner with larger companies or corporate partners, local SMEs like ourselves, and we can tap into grants for capability transformation. And in this case, it's really for us to work with these corporates to, what we do is we supply our circular materials to them and see how we can innovate together to create both the material IP and the product IP to incorporate circular materials into their existing manufacturing processes. And this has been great. We've been speaking with consumer goods companies like luggage companies that are interested in using carbon fiber, for example, in their luggage shells. We're also speaking with companies in the space sector that are thinking about new kinds of materials for satellite radiation shielding. So this kind of initiative that brings together larger corporates together with SMEs has been great for us.
Wonderful.
Sorry, can I just add on? Actually, I feel that the challenge of regulatory certainty applies even to some of our larger companies who are looking to diversify into newer sustainable products. I'll give you an example, right? We have a company called Pan United, which does carbon mineralized concrete. Basically, you inject the carbon dioxide into concrete to make it greener and also a form of carbon capture. Because it's a new material, Singapore has never seen it before, then of course there will be a certain process to give the developer certainty that this concrete would be suitable, it would be durable, and it would be safe for the residents. So I just want to acknowledge that there are certain challenges towards that as well, but it does need to be worked out.
Yeah, and I think that's where the governments really need to take leadership to provide that assurance, that technical, I suppose, standards that are so important to actually scale these solutions. Yeah. Did you want to add?
No,
Yeah. We're going to come to questions, but anyone wants to ask a question in person? Taking the opportunity? No? Okay, well, you guys think of a question to ask in person. We're going to come to this really interesting one that's coming through Slido, and that's from Sandy. Is venture capital suitable for capex-heavy climate tech? That's a good question. How does limited public exit potential affect investor interest? Mark, I'm going to...
Yeah, the simple answer to is venture capital suitable for capex-heavy climate tech is not really. So if you've got you've developed a brilliant new advanced biofuels process, it's worked in the lab, it's worked demonstration level, then you've got to build your first commercial plant. By the way, it's between $500 million and $1 billion for the first plant. Then your venture capital interest in that is going to fall away pretty fast because the ticket size is just too big for most venture capital funds. So, this is one of the problems with a lot of the capex-heavy climate tech. Why it struggled is to make that transition from the venture funding into being funded either by a strategic or private equity. So very often, if you've got a capex-heavy thing, as a venture capitalist, you'll be looking at an exit, which is a trade sale or bringing in strategics that are going to make those much bigger investments. So I think it depends a bit on the scale of how capex-heavy it is. But for the most part, that is very tricky to fund with just pure venture capital alone.
Really interesting. Magdalene, from the seeds capital point of view.
Yeah. I think in the initial early stages, probably possible. We've seen some of the companies in, for example, doing solar, doing perovskite cells, managing to secure some form of VC capital. But as Mark mentioned, when it scales, then you probably have to look at different forms of financing. Yeah.
That's great. I'm going to move on to the next question, which is a bit tricky.
I guess it's for me.
Is Singapore a good base for climate tech to scale in Southeast Asia, or is it too different from its neighbours? Maybe Dazril can answer this one because, you know, you look at Southeast Asia, Asia as your market, or actually the world as your market, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I repeat it, yeah, it's a good base for us. It's been a good base for us because we have been able to develop IP here. There's a research ecosystem for that. And for us to scale, we have been able to tap on grants, tap on this PPP as well for us to start scaling. But I think we are also then eyeing expansion in other places as well, where we can get more regular feedstock that we are looking out for, where we have more of the end-of-life materials from the aircraft, from wind turbines, for example, and things like that. Yeah.
Interesting. Magdalene?
Yes, I need to add on. I would say every country has their own needs and their own priorities. Where Singapore is a good place to scale is that we try to build networks within Southeast Asia. So even for Enterprise Singapore, how we do it is that we do build innovation alliances across the world, not just in Southeast Asia. Today we have 24 nodes of our Global Innovation Alliance, and it's not just about helping companies understand the market, it's also about helping the companies to gain access into the markets, into the demand drivers, but the process of understanding the customer, how to tailor your products to that specific market still exists.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with Singapore being different from its neighbors, because if you think about Silicon Valley, it's very different from the rest of America. In fact, the whole of California is very different from the rest of America, so that isn't a bad thing at all. And I think some of those differences are positive for early stage companies.
Yeah, very good point. The next question, what is the potentially overlooked area of climate tech?
This is my personal view. Part of our work also looks at climate adaptation. So actually climate tech, a lot of it is geared towards mitigation today, how we deal with the energy transition, how do we deal with circular economy. But further down the road, we do know that temperatures are going to rise. There's going to be rising sea levels. There's going to be potential floods and all that. These are a little bit further out, even as we start to look at climate adaptation in coastal protection, in urban heat resilience. There were some of the companies already looking at it today. I think it's one area that we could look a little bit more into.
Yeah, I absolutely 100% agree with that. I mean, that's really an adaptation thing people are only starting to get to grips with now. The other generally overlooked area in the whole of the climate tech space is energy efficiency. As the great Amory Lovin's from Rocky Mountain Institute once said, negawatts are better than megawatts. So I do feel, and energy efficiency is kind of considered to be a bit unsexy and it's not groundbreaking, but there's lots of really interesting technologies that improve efficiency of almost everything we do. So I think that's an area that is due a revival soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, if you think about the 2 tracks we had this year, the Cooler Earth track was actually a little bit more on the climate adaptation, and that's where you get, the innovations like the cooling gel, etc. Because I think we have to face up to the reality that we're facing a climate crisis, and that's something that we've seen the multilateral banks as well, and the United Nations actually putting a lot more emphasis on climate adaptation and resilience. So we hope that investors in the room also look at that area. Okay, question from someone in person. Excellent. Can we get a microphone to Milena? Thank you. You can maybe quickly identify yourself.
Sure. My name is Milena. I'm partner at Antares Ventures. We're a deep tech climate solutions focused fund. So I'm a contrarian to Mark. I clearly believe that there is a great investment opportunity in transformative climate solutions, and we also a seeds capital partner. So our way of ensuring or helping our startups succeed in a difficult environment is to partner them up with corporates and give them those commercial connections early on. But then one thing we keep on keeping in mind is the full capital stack is not available in the region. And I'm talking here about debt financing as well, not just equity where we come in. Input from the panel would be appreciated.
Good question.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I don't, just because I've mentioned efficiency doesn't mean I don't believe that, some very fundamental innovation is required as well. And the deep tech space is super exciting. We need some more radical innovation coming through. But I agree, probably one of the areas that's a little bit underdeveloped is the early stage companies' access to debt financing. This part of the world is more tricky, I would say, than some other areas. So yeah, that's something that definitely could be changed. It was one of the things actually was being discussed in Ecosperity this morning about making debt funding more available to companies that are in the clean tech space. And I think it's also an area where there's a role for more of the concessionary finance to be debt financing rather than equity. That would really help.
Yeah, I think Dylan was.
I mean, and often, to be honest, what I see is often debt financing for early stage companies comes with so many onerous terms that as a startup you don't want to take it because it's going to, it's just going to constrain you over time.
Absolutely. I think Dylan made the same point yesterday at Ecosperity as well, holding the banks accountable or calling them to action on this aspect. But Dazro, have you had that sort of challenge in terms of debt finance?
Exactly what Mark said. We do find it quite onerous to get debt financing, and we are looking into that seriously because when we want to scale or build this pilot facility, it's quite capex heavy in terms of the equipment and in terms of the machining. So we're definitely looking at debt financing.
Wonderful. That's great. Magdalene?
We also acknowledge the issue. We try to ease some of it, at least for the Singapore companies looking for financing in Singapore. We do have schemes that the government backs some of the green loans that are going out, but it will face the similar issues of, a startup want to embark on the requirements required by the banks. Yeah.
Wonderful. The next question here is an interesting one. Oh, actually, it's been replaced. But it was around advice, because I think there was also a question around the cost of building startups in Singapore being quite high, and that your chance of success might be impacted by that. I think one of the other areas as well, which I often hear from impact funds and venture capitalists, is that the pipeline of entrepreneurs in Asia is not necessarily as full as it should be because of, sort of the Asian culture of like not embracing entrepreneurship, which, has been changing a lot. But I think the environment to kind of enable successful founders has been quite different and evolving. So with that in mind, perhaps, with that question on what kind of advice you would give to climate tech startups in this region hoping to make it, what would that be? Dazro, you're living the dream right now, so...
I think really the strategic partnerships is really the key for success. And like I mentioned, we really depend a lot on a consortium-based approach with partners to scale our solutions. It really needs alignment of a lot of things. Obviously, the policy, regulation, and then in terms of the commercial demand as well as the technical feasibility as well. All of these have to be aligned, and it really requires us to be deeply connected with the various stakeholders and get together to really move things forward for us.
One thing that I'd add is once you're into some serious funding rounds, you want to look for investors who bring more than just money. So, so investors who bring sort of early deployment opportunities or help you directly with the scale up, tremendously valuable. Or, if it's a pure financial investor, but one that's sort of committed to working with you to help you to grow the business, that brings some sector expertise, can advise you on that stuff. So getting the right investor set is super important. The other thing, in terms of being successful about, being able to pitch and raise money in the first place, one of the consistent things I see is that a lot of founders, they can have tunnel visions. They've got this thing and they believe it's a great thing, but they've got no awareness of the competitive landscape. And so they've got this great thing, but it's not they haven't thought about how it's going to be competitive versus all the other alternatives there are. So having that ability to look a bit more widely, I think is important. A lot of firms that have that awareness, they often do it because they've got they get a small advisory board or something, and you don't need to pay people much for that. Give them a bit of, sort of deferred equity or something. Don't spend too much cash on advisors, but getting the right broader perspective, because when you're working on your one thing, you kind of got tunnel vision around delivering that one thing, but the world is a much bigger place, and you've got to know how you rank versus all the competing technologies.
Super good point. And I think, just as the final question to wrap up the panel, we've had such an interesting conversation, and I'm sorry we didn't get to all the questions, although I think we did quite well there. What is the one thing that you could change that you think would move the needle on scaling climate tech innovations, helping climate tech innovations get the X factor and become successful? Dasrul?
Again, I'll go back to really a coordinated ecosystem approach is required. It's really to move, for us, circularity from being the exception to being the expectation and really the norm. So really a coordinated ecosystem approach with various stakeholders.
Thank you.
For me, it's really about almost similar, but to scale is really about building the networks within the region. How do we do that to catalyze some of the industry opportunities for the startups in the region? Thanks.
Yeah,
I think it's impossible to pin it down to one thing, because it's most successful businesses. It's a combination of things that you have to get right. The reality is, often when you're scaling up, there's a lot of conservatism in most industries. So when I was in charge of Shell Ventures, we had a whole team that worked on actually deploying the technologies we're investing in Shell's core business. And I can tell you, it was really hard work. Something that's fantastic, improves the efficiency of the business right away. Nobody wants to be the first adopter. So I think, so identify the early adopters for your business or technology. And of course, when you come to the fundraising, you better identify who's going to lead the round, because that's the key to success.
Wonderful. And with that, please join me to thank my panelists for such an amazing discussion. We are going to hand the time back over to Shirin and Steve. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica, and thank you very much to your panel for their great clarity of thought, all very well expressed ideas. Looks like we're going to have a photograph. Thanks particularly those who've travelled. But very insightful feedback and really good to hear. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Just a reminder to those of you who haven't done so yet, we have this quick audience poll for a sort of a peek into who might be the winner of TLC or the winners of TLC 2025. So do scan the QR code that I think is going to pop up on screens around the auditorium so that you can put that vote in. There it is. If you haven't had a chance to vote yet, then do so now. Give us your personal thoughts on who you think is the best value and presents the best proposition. And we will announce that winner. A little bit of fun in a few moments. But we've come to the segment that really we've all been waiting for now. The definitive moment of the day is not too far away. So the judges, you may have spotted, are back in their seats. They finished their deliberations, and thank you for taking the time to do so. And to our virtual audience who are watching from distant areas, you can continue sharing your thoughts and comments in our comments section as we move into now what is the final segment of our event. And after the pitches that we've heard today, I'm sure all of you, as well as our judges, have some thoughts and feedback that they can give to our teams. And so we'll ask the teams to come back to the stage, take their places on the stage now, and just get some thought that may well not only put you in a great position today, but in the months and years to come. So let's welcome our pitching presenters back onto stage so that they can receive the judges' feedback. Great to see you all again. All on the stage at one time, which is super to see. Let's first ask Axel Tan to give his summary to these first 4 judges immediately to my left. If you guys, you 4 could step forward. Not you, sir, you're not far, you're not part of the first 4. You'll be up there in a moment. Axel, please, give us your thoughts.
Yeah, sure. First, I would just like to say that I'm really impressed by the quality of startups in this competition. I think everyone did extremely well. The pitches were very well organized. Now, if I were to go into specific companies, the first 4, thank you so much for all your preparation work. Estia, so the judges' views are that it's good technology. I think there are some questions on recyclability or sustainability of the clothes. Oh wait, am I reading the right order? Okay, sorry. I'm so sorry. SXD, right? Yeah. So I think the main question is about AI, right? And whether the solution can continue to persist. Would it be easy to replicate? It is, of course, the great thing is zero waste, and that's a very important issue to solve in clothing. So kudos to you guys. The next one is cross-linker, right? Very promising technology. Cooling is one of the highest operational costs. So it's good if you guys can reduce the cost. I think one of the main things is also to get to some kind of parity or to get the cost down for your paint product. Next is Decarbon, right? So I think the really interesting thing is you guys are working on plasma, and we mentioned that earlier. I guess the question is, how would you bring that tech, translate it from Belgium out to the world, right? And it is indeed a unique solution. So, thanks for sharing that with us today. And then the next one is Aritin. The judges' comments, I would say downstream and upstream can be competitive, in hydrogen transportation. And hydrogen is indeed unique. And many are thinking about using hydrogen as a means to decarbonize. So your solution actually, we're quite excited about it as well. LOHC is one of the key enablers for the hydrogen system. So thank you.
Axel, thank you. Let me ask these 4 to, well done, everybody. A couple of steps back, and then the 4 to the extreme side of the stage there to come forward. And Andrew Hyung, I think you can give some feedback.
Can I just say something really quickly? So this isn't about, net zero is not about carbon. It's about capital, courage, and collaboration. And I'm in awe of the courage you're showing right now. And what you're creating today is incredible for climate positive future of tomorrow. So thank you. This may not do justice, but I'm just going to do a very quick debrief of our discussion. So first on Catamon, very unique technology. I think the cold ammonia cracking is very interesting. It is fairly early stage, and we thought that we'll probably need some time to get to TRL 6, 7 stage. Second on SXD, we thought that AI could be somewhat replicated and uncertain about Estia, excuse me. Textile is often overlooked, and we're in awe that you are targeting this sector. Great technology, and some concerns around recyclability as well as sustainability of clothes. CO2 Tech, all right. Clear value, very clear proposition, highly scalable and innovative technology. We thought that on your presentation, you could be a little bit more clearer on how the membrane and the solvent would work in tandem, and how it improves efficiency and lowers cost. And Ctogenics, there is a need to do some pre-sorting, and the great thing about being able to deal with this is on the wet waste, as well as some of the potential key challenges in the sector.
All right, thank you for your feedback, judges. Ladies and gentlemen, let me invite you to take your seats because we are now really coming up to the big moment of the evening. Shirin, would you like to join me on the big stage here?
Yep, that's right, Steve. Steve and I are also very anxious for this moment because we want to make sure we're getting the winners right in our little envelopes here in our pockets as well. Before we announce the winners, I also wanted to take a quick minute to share a little bit more about the awards that we'll be handing out today. So these awards that you'll see over here to my right, these are handcrafted by local artists from Singapore's Ugly Wood Company, who specialize in repurposing discarded wood into furniture and gifts. The light bulb is a signature feature of TLC trophies, and it represents human ingenuity and breakthrough technologies that really exemplify the TLC spirit. So first up, we're going to unveil the results of the popular vote as voted by the members of our audience here today. Could I invite Jessica Chiam to join us on stage to hand out this award?
I'm always curious about this one. Let's remember this is the popular vote, not determined by our judges, but rather everybody in the audience here and also you guys who are viewing remotely.
Exactly. It's always interesting to see what our audience thinks. Okay, can we pull up the poll for the popular choice vote? And the winner is... Oh,
there it
by
is.
a landslide, it is Decarbon. Let's get the Decarbon team up. Congratulations.
Yes, definitely
for
congratulations.
winning the hearts of our audience.
I wonder if that will be indicative of the final results.
We'll see.
We're moments away from them.
We'll see. They're towering Jessica, but thank you, Jessica. Okay, great. Now we're moving on to our next award, Steve.
Yeah, moving on to the first investment to be awarded today. We'll be presenting a $100,000 investment by Octave Wellbeing Economy Fund. Oh, thank you. That's because we need 3 hands for this section.
We do.
And neither of us have that many digits, I'm afraid. So here we go. This is the Octave Wellbeing Award. $100,000 investment is available.
Sorry, yes, Axel, could you please join us on stage?
Sorry,
to
Axel,
give out this
yes,
award?
thank you for helping us out there.
We were so anxious about getting the right envelope
Come
out that we
along
forgot
and help
about
us
the
out with the
presenter.
MC job. That would be useful.
Thank you, Axel.
Axel has the award in his hand, and he will be presenting it to, ladies and gentlemen, Crosslinker. I'll take that. And that's done, right? Oh, I don't know what to do. No. That one. Let's do somewhere out of the pocket. Thank you, Axel.
Okay, thank you, Axel, and congratulations to Crosslinker. Our next award that we will be presenting is a $100,000 investment by Trirec. So, Steve, I think
no,
you
it's
have...
you.
By Trirec? Okay.
No, I have Trirec, but... but
We're so sorry about this.
Is that the next one? TLC, right?
I think let's, you know what, I'll follow the one that we have on the envelope. So the next one that I have is Valuance Ventures. To present this award, can I invite, yes, thank you, Andrew Hyung. You can join us up on stage over here. Okay, and the award goes to Aritin. Thank you, Andrew.
Many congratulations to you. And our third $100,000 investment comes from Trirac. Andrew Wong, please come up to the stage and join us for this presentation. And with only 2 hands, I shall open the envelope. The winner of this $100,000 award investment by Trirac is Aritin.
Another round of applause for Aritin. And now we're moving on to our last award in this category. Could I please invite Emily to join us up on stage to present the $100 grant by Enterprise
$100,000
grant. Again, this is a very nerve-wracking process. Thank you, Emily. And the winner of the Enterprise Singapore grant is CO2 Tech.
Now we go to done all of them.
Thank you.
All right, so $400,000 have gone to very deserving winners, but now we come to the big moment. The most highly anticipated moment, quite literally the million-dollar question of the day. And for the presentation of the next 2 prizes, we would like to invite Mr. Ng Boon Hyong, CEO and Executive Director of Temasek Foundation, to help us unveil the 2025 TLC winners. Mr. Ng, thank you for joining us. And with the benefit of a drum roll, I'm quite sure. My pleasure to announce our first Liveability Challenge 2025 grand winner is Crosslinker.
Congratulations to the Crosslinker team. Could we invite you to remain on stage? Gayatri and Dr. Mahir.
Could you stay for us for a while?
So the judges felt that your solution had almost immediate impact, had a clear commercialization route, and was relatable to the Singapore climate. And now we'd like to invite you to share a few words about your winning for today. If we can get a microphone here.
Here we go. One microphone coming your way.
Thank you, Steve.
Do give us a few words to tell us how you feel.
I'll have to return the prize. Thank you. Deeply honored. I'm very, very happy, excited, but this is just the beginning. We have a very big job to do to make sure that we develop solutions that equitably reaches everybody, not just tech savvy. Many thanks to the Temasek Foundation for all the inspiring work that you have been doing, and all my investors who have specially flown in for this event. Thanks a lot. It means a lot to us, and thanks to our team, family, who have put up with us. Thanks a lot. There is a big responsibility in front of us, and once again, we are deeply expressing our gratitude for trusting us and believing in our mission.
Super happy to get this award. Very grateful to all those investors, colleagues, and stakeholders who have supported us throughout this journey. We were very close. Startup is not a very easy journey. For 5 years, we have been trying to find solutions, and I'm so happy that we have found something. And right now is something that we want to take it and bring it to the next level and show that be a socially responsible company in promoting sustainability for the environment. Thank you.
And to all the fellow finalists, you keep inspiring us. It's such an amazing work to solve some of the most difficult challenges in this world. Choosing to spend your career life, like the prime time, 10 years of your life, to do something committed to a cause rather than actually building a very easy solution, software app, dating site, taxi hailing app. Thanks a lot.
Two very happy people. Well done indeed. Do please stay with us for our next announcement. That's our first $1 million winner, very happily returning to their table. And we have a second winner to announce. Mr. Ng remains with us, and he will be presenting this award because the Liveability Challenge grand winner for 2025, ladies and gentlemen, goes to Aritin. Many, many congratulations. Well done. Take that, Mike.
Congratulations once again, Brandy. The judges felt that your downstream and upstream were highly competitive, and your solution fills an important gap in the midstream space and is scalable.
So would you like to give us a few words and let us know how you feel? Because you're in a much better situation than you were 60 seconds ago, right?
The board is going to be incredibly happy. No, I'm so grateful for this. I'm really excited to be able to have this funding support and really cement our position in Singapore and Southeast Asia. I'm very grateful to the Temasek Foundation for believing in the tech that we're building and in our ability to decarbonize these hard-to-abate sectors. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for my fantastic team of nerds, as I like to call them back home, as well as the support that we have from our investors, both local and really internationally global. So yes, thank you all so much. And I definitely want to thank my co-founder who wasn't able to join me today. It's a little bit of a trek here from Canada. Yeah, thank you, Tasha, and my family for putting up with a lot of crazy stuff as we build a startup. So, thank you.
Wonderful. Congratulations. Well done indeed. Congratulations. And Mr. Ng, thank you very much indeed for giving out those wonderful prizes that everyone now is going to be very proud of. And I'm sure all of those funds will be used very productively indeed for everybody's benefit. So thanks again to Mr. Ng, and once again, huge congratulations to both of our grand winners and all of our finalists, of course, today for their efforts and big success in the future. Thanks for all of the hard work and the solutions that you provided with your amazing ideas. We're sure this is only the beginning and that all the teams we've heard from today will be attracting a lot more in the way of investments and opportunities beyond what we've witnessed here today. So thank you to those in person and online from different time zones around the world who've been with us through this entire journey. And now we've come to the end of this exciting finale. We'd like to say a few thank yous, wouldn't we? To our judges, of course, and strategic partners. Thank you for joining us on this journey and providing your expertise and guidance for our finalists today. Most importantly, thank you for walking the talk and putting money into these innovations and to help making them a reality.
This event would also not have been possible without the support of our more than 50 partner organizations from all across the world, and we thank you all for your continued support.
And Shirin, I'd especially like to thank TLC's presenter, Temasek Foundation. A huge thank you for your vision and leadership in this very important initiative.
We'd also like to thank our amplifier partners on the screen, our outreach partner, our Tech for Good partner, AWS, who are providing finalists with up to $1 million in cloud credits, as well as our challenge partners as well.
Thank you all for journeying with us today. We hope you've enjoyed yourselves and feel inspired about the innovations we saw here and their potential for impact on our world.
Thank you also to the teams at Temasek Foundation who are here with us today, the eco-business team, the production crew who've all been working tirelessly to deliver this event behind the scenes. And last but not least, we also want to thank our audience. Thank you all for being part of the experience. We hope that you've enjoyed it just as much as we have. And our global quest to drive impact and find the best sustainability ideas will continue. So keep them coming. Keep a lookout for TLC 2026 as well.
Yeah, please do scan the QR codes on the back of your badges to fill in our feedback form. We really would like to hear from you. And the second one is the commute form. Once again, please let us know how you got here for our carbon emissions accounting. Very important. Do help us spread the word, won't you, about TLC by posting to your networks with the hashtag TLC 2025.
I know there's a lot of buzz in the audience with the winners right now, but do bear with us for a few more announcements. We'd also like to extend a special discount to our virtual and physical audiences for an eco-business membership plan. This would give you access to our content, our training, our events just like this. You can scan the QR code on the screen to learn more about the individual plans and use the code TLC25 to get 25% off your membership. We also have a corporate plan, EB Enterprise, so please feel free to approach anyone from EcoBusiness here if you have any questions. A final reminder also to return your lanyards at the front desk as we do reuse them for our events. And please do stay on for networking drinks right after this. Now, before we officially end, we'd like to take a few photographs with everyone here. So could I invite on stage the finalists once again?
One last trip to the stage for our fabulous finalists.
Our last time up on stage, the finalists.
Come on, up you come.
The judges as well. The speakers from our Innovation Dialogue. The Eco-Business and Temasek Foundation teams. Let's get all on stage.
Up you come. Well done, everybody. One final trip, and congratulations on all your efforts today.
Can we get the finalists
Finalists,
up on
please.
stage?
Do make your way up to the stage so we can have a photograph with everybody. Judges.
All the working teams from Eco-Business, Temasek Foundation, the speakers.
Come, Tiffany, please, yeah. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, I think we have everyone on stage. Okay. So if we can all, squeeze a little bit closer and stand at an angle. We'll just try to squeeze in here. One row. Dr. Gila? Steve? Okay. Does that look all right? Yeah. On the, yes. And we'll do one more fun shot. So on the count of 3, we'll all shout TLC. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. TLC! And can we take one more photograph with the audience so if we can get the photographer up on stage? Yeah, we'll turn around. So everyone take a step forward and then we'll turn around. Audience members, if you can squeeze, right? Off stage, right? Oh, for you also. Okay, we'll just head down to the front of the stage. Audience members, if we can get your help to